of Tampa, Temple Terrace, Plant City, and unincorporated Hillsborough County. The Planning Commission provides innovative leadership and long-range vision that contributes to the creation of a thriving, prosperous community that offers opportunity, fairness, and choice in how we live, move, learn, work, and play. For more information about the Planning Commission, please call 813-272-5940. Follow us on social media or visit our website at planhillsborough.org.
Good evening and welcome to the August 13th, 2018 public hearing of the Planning Commission on Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan Amendments. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your comments and participation are encouraged. If you will, please sign the register at the rear of the room and turn off any devices which may be a distraction to the meeting. And if you wish to address the Commission on a particular amendment, we ask that you please complete the appropriate public comment sign-in sheet at the rear of the room now. When addressing the Commission, please begin with your name and address and speak directly into the microphone. For those of you who are not familiar with our process, the meeting will be conducted as follows. An agenda item will be introduced, and staff will give a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given the opportunity also to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following the presentations, members of the public may address the Commission when recognized by the chair, and public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will then be afforded a 3-minute period for rebuttal or response. Planning commissioners will ask questions. Public comment will be closed, and upon a motion and a second and discussion, a vote will be taken. Can we have roll call, please?
Good evening. Buzza? Here. Dix? Green? Present. Joseph?
Here.
Kress? Here. Marino?
Here.
Thrower?
Here.
Wilds? Dickerson?
Here.
Rodriguez?
Here.
Dowdy?
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you. First item up on our agenda is HC CPA 18-05, Future Land Use Map Amendment. Ms. Kelly.
Good afternoon, Krista Kelly, Planning Commission staff. Today I'm presenting Comprehensive Plan 1805, Timmins Road. This is a privately initiated map amendment in the rural area. It's also within the Thono-Tasassa Community Planning Area, which is outlined in red on this map. The site is on the east side of Timmins Road and is just west of Mango Road. The site is 39.5 acres approximately and is currently used for agriculture. The surrounding development pattern reflects a mixture of agricultural uses and rural residential uses on acres generally 1 acre and larger. This is the adopted future land use map showing its current designation as agricultural estate. That's 1 dwelling unit per 2.5 acres. As you can see to the east, that area is also designated agricultural estate 1 to 2.5 acres. The applicant is proposing a change to residential 2, and that allows 2 units per acre. And as you can see to the northwest and south, that area is designated residential 1. The impact of this change would be to allow an additional 63 dwelling units. It does not meet locational criteria, so non-residential uses would not be allowed without a waiver. Staff reviewed it for consistency and found it not compatible with the semi-rural development pattern in the surrounding area. It's contrary to the rules, the county's rural strategy to maintain lots of 1 unit per 5 acres and up. It conflicts with the strategies of the Thono-Tasassa Community Plan to retain the semi-rural character of the area. The plan envisions maintaining rural residential densities of 1 unit per acre and up. The site is not, or the proposed change is not consistent with the rural public utility connection policy in the rural area. There are two policies that address this, policy 4.7 and 4.9. 4.7 outlines exceptions to that rule. It generally deals with public health and safety factors. Policy 4.9 specifies that connection to public facilities cannot be based on an increase in densities and intensities on the future land use map. This was distributed for agency review, and we have a revised comment from Public Utilities. It looks like this, it's in front of you. It's quite general, but it outlines that there is water, there is a water line in the area. Again, the site does not qualify to connect to the water line in the area. Planning staff recommends that CPA 1805 be found inconsistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the future land use comprehensive plan. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Does the applicant wish to make a presentation?
My name is Haridas Bugade. I am the owner for the 10201 Timmins Road, along with another owner, Dr. Patel, with me. The reason for this future land use map change is because we are a farmer. We have 200 plus acres in Hillsborough County, which we are doing as a farming. For this specific lot, we are facing some challenges based on the farming activity, and I want to share you a few things about. So most of this Thanatos area, almost like 300 plus acres got impacted with one of the Arcla Terra super fund where it is contaminated groundwater with tetrachloroethylene. And because of that, we are not able to extract the water even for our agriculture activities, like we want to do the other intensive agriculture, but we are not able to get another additional permit for well also. We have a small well existing. So that is one thing. So because of this Arcla Terra, and we got the water connection on the site. That is, the county provided the water. Another utility on the site is we have fiber optic connections, which Verizon gave, and now it is Frontier. So we have a site with fiber optic connection, which is eligible for the next 5G implementation, which will be coming in Tampa Bay area also. So on the site, we have drinking water provided by county. From the utility perspective, we have Teco Electric, and only thing which we don't have at this point to be eligible for urban service area is the septic. And the minimum, as per the building code, to have a site, septic on the site, it's like a half-acre lot. That is the reason we are asking residential too. Recently, one of our neighboring property also got approval for 1 acre, but they don't have city water, they don't have any other utilities where private companies and the public monies are spent on it. So from the utility perspective, that is the reason we are saying that we are eligible for residential too. Yeah, that's conclude why we are asking residential too and not 1 acre.
Thank you. I have, Dr. Patel,
He's
you
the
finished?
second owner.
Okay.
Yeah. My name is Dr. Patel. I am the co-owner. Basically, we are applying for this 2 unit per acre to meet the county requirement for the septic tank, which requires the half-acre lot. And with our increasing the density unit limit there, we want to increase the growth of that area, and there get some more progress in that area. That's our basic idea.
Thank you. I have a number of people that are signed up to speak on this item. I'm going to go through them one by one on the sheet. When I announce your name, and please forgive me if I butcher it, please come up, state your name, and you'll have 3 minutes. My first person is a Jason Bellerose.
My name is Jason Bellerose. I live on 10122 Timmins Road. I know he's talking about this groundwater thing. That's actually been cleared recently by the EPA, so that's not even an issue. Secondly, this plan of residential 2 does not fit the current plan of our neighborhood. We have people that have 1 and larger acre lots, and to have all of a sudden these half-acre lot homes just doesn't fit what we have going on in our neighborhood. We have people that actually have almost look like gated estates on the street and not that subdivision look. More importantly, to put the 78 homes or whatever they decide to put on that lot, the street is barely passable for a vehicle right now at this point, and there are grandfather oaks that line the street. People's setbacks almost touch the road, so there would have to be, eminent domain or something like that to take people's land from them. I'm not sure how that's going to go down. There is public water on the street, but there's no sewer, so then the street would have to be torn up for the infrastructure to put the sewer and everything else in, and that would be unbelievable for us as residents for a couple of years trying to get to your home with a street that's going to be completely destroyed. So ultimately, this would completely change the kind of unique little community we have on our street as to how it's going to look and what we've got going on. It's a lot of ag on the street, a lot of people doing different things involving agriculture, gardens, things of that nature. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you.
All right.
Next, I have a Wilbert Malfas.
Sign the wrong sheet.
Okay. An Alfonso Savage.
Good evening. My name is Alfonso Savage. I live at 9719 Timmins Loop, and I just want to piggyback on what the young man just spoke about. The street is not adequate for 78 homes or however many homes they want to put on there, and it's not comparable to the neighborhood that we already have there. Going outside there, we have a neighborhood on Honey Road and William Road. They have access to William Road and Honey Road, but on Timmins Road, it's no access. You got to go all the way to Screw Lee, and it's already a nightmare out there. And like for 20-some years, we've been asking the county to pave Joey Road. They just came out there a few months ago, and they patch paved it so many feet. And on the side of the road, you got the road is broken off in certain areas, and they still didn't patch that. Now we want to put 70-some homes on Timmins Road. That's ludicrous. It don't even make no sense. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Savage. I have a Greg Maxwell.
My name is Gregory Maxwell. I live at 10214 Timmins Road, and I believe that is going to be the biggest objection you're going to find is that we all are neighbors. This road is not passable for 2 cars at one time, so you drive in your neighbor's yard to pull over to let another vehicle pass. Not only that, all along the road, the power poles, some are within 18 inches of the road, several within 2 feet. The average is 3 feet from the road. Some of these power poles are only 25 feet from the front of some of the older residences. You were talking about having to move those into their yard, their front yard. And as it is, it is a tree-lined road. There are several areas that, when the county allowed the power poles to come in, that you actually have to plan ahead. Oh, there's a car 150, 100 yards ahead. Well, I need to pull over here in this one space to allow them to clear all the trees so that then you can proceed. If you're talking even 60 houses, that's a minimum of 120 cars, minimum, that I'm supposed to sit in my front yard and let pass every morning before I can get out of my driveway and go to work. It's a very rural street. It may be designated 2-lane, but there are several portions of it that not even two of the tiniest cars out on the market can pass on that road at the same time. It's definitely rural. I don't doubt that in the future, all of the Notisassel will be neighborhoods just like Brandon and Riverview and everywhere else in this county. But there are still pockets of land that aren't developed. Doesn't matter who owns them. You know, just because you buy land, you should not have a right, you know, like it's your right to have zoning changed to suit your purposes when it affects everybody else that has been there. You know, you can invest in property, but you don't have a guarantee that you're going to be able to make a profit or do whatever you want with that property. It's up to you, ladies and gentlemen, to guide everybody in that. I'm sure you decline things all the time just because it's not fair to everybody. And developers don't have a right to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maxwell. I have a Robert Tooten. Robert Tooten.
My name is Robert M. Tooten. I live at 10220 Tibbins Road. I'm a third-generation Floridian. My son's a fourth. I lived out there for 40 years. I'm for changes and stuff, and for the the guy that bought the property to make money, to invest and all. But I'm not for 2 or 3 homes per acre. When I bought my property, that wasn't the rule. And what you people are doing is you're allowing this thing to advance, which I agree with that. But we don't want commercial property out there, and we don't want 5 houses per acre, 4 houses per acre. 1 house per acre would probably be decent, and the man should be able to make money on doing that. But I don't know if the county is going to put the sewer out there and do something with the road, because the road is pretty tight and all. But listen, Hillsborough County has not done nothing for Timmons Road for years. And no, I'm not here to complain about that, you know, because just the way it is, it's the way of life out there, you know, and changes are coming. But we don't need no big warehouses out there. We don't need 5 houses per acre, 2 houses per acre. We need 1 house per acre or 1 house per 5 acres. And I just hope that that maybe if y'all pass this thing, you've already passed a couple little housing projects out there off Joe Ebert Road, and the fences are falling down by the codes they put out there. And now the people the ones that bought the property has to mend the fences. Now they're not even matching the fences and all. And I'm sure they're doing the best they can, but it is an eyesore, you know. So I just hope and plead for the board here that, you know, I've been out there for a long time. And I built my house facing the east so the sun could come up. And now, if you put commercial buildings on there, I won't be able to see that. I won't be able to see the shuttle go off no more. Of course, they don't go off anyway. But you see, the thing of it is, it's just pasture out there, and it looks pretty. Now, I know that houses, sometime I'm gonna look out there and see some houses on it out there, and I'm willing to give for that there, and I'm sure these other people are too. But heck, I had Bell Smith's grandson by my house the other night, and those roads out there are named after him. And there's been a lot of changes, but there's not been no really improvements out there. But, you know, I'm not like complaining about that. I'm just kind of watching this thing go in front of me and trying to slide through. We don't want no commercial property coming from 579 backing up to Timmons Road. And I don't know why they're having 3 different meetings whenever all this should come to an end right now.
Thank you, Mr. Tooten. I have a Tammy Smith, sorry. And I'd like to ask, I can understand the emotions that people have in the room, but if you can limit your applause, please. We do have a lot of people signed up, and in order to give everybody their 3 minutes, I'd like to keep it moving, please.
Hi, my name is Tammy Smith. I live on 10203 Laid Back Lane, just off of Timmons Road. My grandparents actually purchased their property in 1971. I was born in '69, so as you see, that's like a family home to me. My grandparents bought that property because they loved the community it was in. Timmons Road has not changed the entire time. My grandparents has owned that property, and I just purchased that property this year. Only thing that's changed is speed bumps going down the road. There's not even 30 to 35 homes on the entire road on Timmons Road, and you're talking about doubling amount on 44 or 39.44 acres. That's not even feasible. You have no public access. You know, there's no transit system that runs out there. Nothing. School systems are packed. Nobody has done nothing to improve any roadways within our community. In the past 10 years, the development has just boomed. I mean, you got people living on Williams Road, pay $200,000 to $300,000 for homes, driving on a road, destroying their vehicles with potholes. I mean, we hear people all the time that can't even slow down for a speed bump that's hitting the bottom of their trailers and tearing their vehicles up because they can't even slow down, let alone here I go on Schooley Road with an elementary school and a park doing 35 miles an hour, and someone's passing me at 50 to 60 miles an hour because you don't even have law enforcement to patrol our area. How can you accommodate 78 homes in our area? It's just not feasible. I'm sorry, but that is not feasible whatsoever.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. I have a Kefir Noria, or Nori? No? Yeah, I'll bring Michelle Riordan, and I have a couple of people, if you could line up to Monica McLaughlin and Jenny Latimer.
Michelle Reardon. I am at 10106 Timmons Road at the Notasasa. I am directly across the street from where this development is going to happen. And I saw that this gentleman had a picture up here earlier. Am I able to put that up on the screen for a visual or no? No. Am I able to project an image from my phone or no? Does that have to, doesn't project like that? Okay. I had taken some, no, I don't want that. I had taken some images to hopefully share with you guys about how small the road is. My vehicle at some parts of the road doesn't even fit all the way across the road. I'm off the road. And there's potholes on the side of the road because everybody, with the people that are already there, which aren't that many, people have to go off the road to pass. We are so rural. I don't know everyone that was on the north side of the road last year when the hurricanes came. It was over a week. The entire area they just forgot about our road because it's so small. So putting another 78 homes or making it industrial is absolutely not. Even the roads feeding our road aren't capable of the congestion that would bring to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Monica McLaughlin. I have a last name of McLean or McClare. Handwriting's better than mine, but Gloradine.
I'll be them.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Kurt McKay, and I'm at 9871 Timmons Road. And I represent 3 generations of residents, my parents, myself, and one of my son, who all live in the Notasasa in that area. Well, right across from each other. But what I want to do more than anything else is call your attention to your vision statement, the latter part that says that your board provides opportunity, fairness, and choice in how we live, move, work, and play. And right now, I'm exercising and expressing that this 50-plus members or residents that are here now have already been in the Notasasa. We understood that it was one house per acre when we purchased back in '79, and we're okay with that. There is a plan in place, and I'd like to say we'd like to keep that same plan in place. It would not be, the next one is fairness. It would not be fair to all of these people for this board to consider changing our community when we've been there with this many years and there have been no changes thus far. We appreciate development, but that almost looks like favoritism, that road would be without repair, without anything happening to it, and all of a sudden someone would want to come in out of making a profit, and we understand that. They can make a profit. I'll go on record and say it. I'd like for them to make it somewhere else. But we'd like to say, because we've been here this long, that we've already decided, and the plan you have works for us on how we're going to live, how we move, how we work, and how we already play, and we would like for that not to change for someone to come in and make a profit just because of profitability. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a Gerald Bennett, and if people could line up possibly a Tyrone Timmons and a Tim Gray.
Hi, I'm Gerald Bennett. I live in 10469 Bloomfield Hills Drive. I'm across the street on the south side in a 1-acre development. All I see is the problems coming on. They built new subdivision on Williams Road and Harney. KB Homes went in there. They got Miranda Homes going on 579 and right there in Joe Ebert. Now they want this going. Right now the traffic situation is horrendous as it is. The roads, Joe Ebert's terrible. Like the one gentleman said, they did a patch job on the road. And I mean, a Jimmy job. It was junk. They just didn't fix it. It's falling apart already. Williams is falling apart. Everything is just, how much can it take out there? And my mom lives on Timmons, and I go to her every time I go to my mom's house down there. I got to pull over the grass to let someone else pass. That road will not sustain any more traffic on it. Cannot sustain any more construction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Tyrone Timmons.
Hello, my name is Tyrone Timmons, 9930 Timmons Road. I've been a resident out there for 16 years now. I used to live in Brandon where there was congested, where we had houses on top of houses. That's why I moved from there to move to the Notasasa. I like the area out there now. I'm on a 2-acre lot. It's nice and quiet. It's peaceful. I don't mind moving on the side of the road to let someone else buy. I enjoy that. I enjoy my family coming out, enjoying the property. But the 7, 8 homes that you guys are trying to pass, there'll be too much traffic on that road. Some of these people I met for the first time, everybody seems like they're nice people, nice country folks, and we like to keep it that way. I moved from the city to the rural area so I can become a country boy, which I like that. So we can keep it that way. I really would appreciate it. And if you guys haven't been out there, you can come to my house, 9930 Timmons Road. I will barbecue for you and show you where we are. So please change your mind from this man trying to put all these homes out there, which we do not need. And I plan on leaving my property for my kids when I pass along, that they can have that same country atmosphere that we have now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Timmons. Have Mr. Gray, and if there's a Jason and Deborah Ivy and a Griselle Aldia next, if you could line up. Mr. Gray.
Tim Gray, 10309's Timmons Road. First of all, I want to thank you for allowing us to speak. We appreciate that. Also want to go on record as we appreciate the reasonableness of Krista Kelly and her professionalism in helping us through some of this process. May I ask, has any of the board been able to drive down this road? Anyone driven down this area that we're talking about? You have? Okay, thank you. I may not be the most popular neighbor when I'm done, because I actually disagree with some of my neighbors. Part of living in an urban community is development, and guess what? Roads can be widened. my argument is completely different. We live in a very divided world. It's divided racially, it's divided politically, but our neighborhood is not divided. Everyone who's in objection, please stand up. You're not going to speak, but please stand up. Everyone who objects to this Timmons Road, stand up. Do you see how united our neighborhood is right now? That makes a difference. Sometimes neighborhood is all we have in this world that's so divided. So it's important to us. Now, we welcome development. We welcome our neighbors. That's who we are. Look how united we are in this argument here. But the challenge is accepting this gentleman's spot zoning proposal, which is exactly what this is in complete disagreement with the long-range goals. And I disagree. You should not allow one home per acre. Even the homes in our area that can have one home per acre do not. Keep it one house per 5 acres. He can still make money. My opinion actually changed because I was one home per acre, but my opinion changed when he put his land up for sale on Zillow for $2 million. He should make money. We all should make money on our properties. But that's an obvious money grab. Infrastructures can be changed. They can be increased. I only have 30 seconds left. He admitted already that the well is polluted. Now, it has been cleared, but at the same time, we already understand that the water from the city that's there is not adequate to feed these homes. So what's he going to put 78 homes on a polluted well, in his opinion? And that's ridiculous. Would you want to move in that house and have your daughter take a bath in polluted water? That's his own admission, not ours. We think the well is clear. I'm out.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Mr. Ivy?
Hi, I'm Jason Ivy, and I live on 9917 Timmons Road. And all of these folks have talked about the roads, which is absolutely, we cannot sustain so many people. Also, what the gentleman was saying about the water, we have, when there's construction going and wells get dug, it just so happens that I have to put a filter on my house now, which I never ever had to do because of the contamination of the water. We can't take that many people. It's not against, or it's against the plan that the Nona Sassa set out in the begin with. So let's keep it the way it is, or like the gentleman said, 5 acres per home. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ivy. Rizal Aldea. And I have Michael Mintzberg and a Steve Parker next.
Hi, good evening. My name is Grisel Aldea. Me and my husband live in 10114 Timmons Road. We've been in Florida for 16 years. We bought that house, even still living in Florida, in California, because we wanted to get away from the crowdiness. We came here and we have all this community. My neighbor takes care of me when my husband is out of town. He takes the trash out when I am not at home and I'm late from work. We have chickens that nobody is making anything. We give our neighbors the eggs. This is a community. We help each other. On the hurricane, when the county left us alone and all the stuff, 2 of our neighbors sitting right there took their bobcats and cleaned the whole 1 mile Timmons Road. Where do you see that in a subdivision? Because, of course, the subdivisions are going to be the first because of volume of residents. Us, no. We have visitors that love to come to visit us because of our property, because there's only, you can hear the animals, you can hear nothing, it's dark. It's beautiful. They said, oh my gosh, I wish our contractors come, and I said, oh, I'm going to go to Alta and Grisel's house because it's so quiet. You guys have never touched our road, like everybody says in here, 16 years, and that road hasn't been paved. paved. Now you want to expand it? Not even little potholes you guys fixed like that. Nothing. You guys abandon us. And that's okay. I'm not complaining like this gentleman because we wanted it this way. We wanted it quiet and we wanted like a sense of community that everybody showed up to see if we can make your minds. What kind of criteria are you going to use to make a decision like this? You're using? What criteria are you going to use to make a decision if you decide to go with this?
You offer comments. This isn't really a conversation back and forth between, you're offering comments or reasons why you do not or do want.
Okay, that's fine. You don't have to
It follows
answer.
the
Thank you
comprehensive
for your
plan.
time, and I hope you guys consider our request. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aldea. I have a Michael Mintzberg and a Steve Parker.
Good evening, staff. My name is Steve Parker, and I reside at 10926 Schooley Road in Thonotosassa. I've been there 31 years. I have been down here many times in front of you over the years, going back 15 years, and even going back when Rhonda Storms was on the county commission, and that's going back a little bit, isn't it? Yeah. But most of these residents have brought up some issues about infrastructure, EPA issues with the wells. I've been battling this in Thonotosassa, like I said, for 15 years with the land use change requests on the east and west side of Taylor Road, the land use change on the east side of 579 and west side, where are thousands of acres. My question is to you, as every time when I come down here and I speak, I ask the same question. Are you setting precedent for the other landowners? What's happened out there when we first started was when that land on 579 and Taylor Road, the landowners were, and their thousands of acres, were 1 to 5 acres. They were requesting it to be put 1 to 1. Well, it was denied, and hence one large landowner went by your recommendations and committed, planned and developed Stone Lake Ranch on 5-acre lots. So he went just with what you recommended after our civic association came down here and brought up these same issues about EPA, wells, all of that. Unfortunately, these landowners on 579, which reside in Winter Park, Florida, has got to the point where they got their land reduced from 1 to 5 to 1 to 2.5. And just 2 months ago, when I was down here and spoke, they were requesting going from 2.5 to 1 acre. So that's on the the west side of 579. And my question to you at that time, and actually it was in front of some commissioners as well, and Mr. Hagan and Ms. Kemp both asked the same question as I did. Are you setting precedent for the other landowners? Think what would happen if the guy that has 500 acres on the east side of 579 wants to change his land and wants to have 2 homes per acre. Are you going to tell him no if you grant these people the land use change that they're requesting? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. I have a Mary Pearson, perhaps?
Yes. I like that enter this into records. It's 71 signatures. Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Marin Pearson Vereen. I'm not one that get very nervous around people. I have panic attacks, real bad. But I felt so strong that I had to come here. Okay? It terrified me to be around a large crowd. But one thing I got to say, I come from town. I used to, just like some of the other family members, I call them family members. Everybody in here is family. I've been out the Thonotosassa since 05. Built my house, tuck every little penny I have, just scrape just to get away from town. My family been out since 41. They had the whole 40 acres right there on Timmons. Okay? And I love it so much out there. If you took the time and go out there and see how wonderful it is out there. You know that old show called Mayberry US of A? It's better than that. Okay? It's better than that. Okay? That's how we live. We are true good neighbors. I'm sure you hear that with a lot of other people. A lot of people. But this is the truth. You can't find it nothing better than here. And like this lady spoke before, she had family come out and they love it. I'm not opposed to growth, but I am opposed to them. We're the majority. We're the majority. You live somewhere else. We live in the same world. But we're the majority. The majority is telling you what we want. I like to keep it just like it is, 5 acres. But it may not be that way. But no less than 1 acre, 2 acres, no less. Don't wreck that for us. I'm asking you out of good common sense and good decency, and I know y'all decent folks, don't wreck that up for us. Please don't do that. Now, this man right here, I feel for him, but I feel more for us. Okay? Please don't do that. I'm telling you, don't do that. Don't wreck something that we got so special out there. We truly have this. And when these people saying that they ain't just talking, they're telling you the truth. I've been out there for years. Used to come out there for years with Cousin Ben. He had 41 acres. He's been out there since 41. He's dead now. Now, the rest of us, we're carrying it on. And I want to carry it past that to my son. I didn't want him around crime and stuff like that. I took every penny I have just to build that little house with that acre I got. To do everything I can to put them in a good environment and with good people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pearson. I have an Olga Rodriguez. Let me go down. Byron Bartlett.
My name is Byron Bartlett, 10014 108th Avenue. I support just about everything my neighbors have said so far. Traffic on Timmons is already difficult and would only get quite a bit worse with the addition of 64 new homes if that's what was ultimately approved. One thing that hasn't been mentioned so far is stormwater. Curious as to exactly how stormwater would be addressed. There are areas out there that do have, especially up towards the, I think it would be the west end of Timmons, near to Harney Road, Schooley Road, that the water table is kind of high and it does flood. It has flooded out Schooley Road at times in the past. One other thing that has been mentioned is groundwater out there. EPA was out at my house just this last week. They've been sampling my well for upwards of 5 years now, I think, 3 years, something like that, as a result of contamination from an organization called Arclaterra. That has not been cleared. They hope that with this most recent round of sampling it might be, but as it stands right now, that groundwater is still polluted. And also the issue of septic tanks, if that is what is ultimately approved, some of the homes out there, the older homes, are on their own private wells, possibly already dealing with contaminated water there. But if you then add another 64, 65 septic tanks, if they're not installed properly, not designed properly, not maintained properly, they will fail, and that is another pollution source. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bartlett. I've run through all the names that I have signed up. However, there were people in the other room that came in, and there are, yes. So I want to open it up to those that were in the spillover. If you've lined up and you want to speak on this item, please come forward, name and address, and you'll get 3 minutes as well.
Thank you. I'm Olga Rodriguez. I was in the next room.
Okay. There you go.
Okay. As a business partner and wife, my husband's name is Moises Moreta. He's trying to do property change, zoning change. We've been working in that property for the past 15 years doing the same thing that we're doing as of right now. And I just hope that you guys can approve that change. I know that you guys got big plans for the Seminole High historic site, but we want to be part of that. We want to keep working in that neighborhood.
I want to apologize to you, Ms. Rodriguez, because I may have.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, you're on a different one that's coming up later.
All right.
So I've got a bunch of names here.
All right,
So
no
I will
problem.
apologize, and I'll call you
Wait.
later. Was there anyone in the overflow room that wished to talk on this particular item? Or anyone in addition that's in this room? Yes, sir. State your name and address.
My name is Pascal Lacombe. I live at 10003 Summers Road. It's off of Timmins. And I lived there for like 20 years. On what they named me, this, like we said, we are neighbors, we are friends, we are all of that. They used to name me the French redneck. So, and it's why we were there. It's what I moved there just to raise some goats, raise some horses, raise a family around some green, not concrete, all of that. And I would like to keep my daughter safe on the road, see some horses, not so many cars or trucks or anything like this on the road, to keep a good neighbor and a safe neighborhood.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Come and line up if you're.
My name is Jolene Bennett. I live at 9860 Timmins Road.
Yes, ma'am.
And everything that said here tonight was the truth, especially about the lack of infrastructure. We have no infrastructure to accommodate 70 homes, let alone honestly 40. Even if you do 1 home per acre, we don't have the infrastructure for it. The road is a mess. Everything around there, it cannot accommodate this kind of volume. I did have one question, though, because I know they were up on the monitors, because I've been curious as to see if there is somewhere we can see this proposed plan, like where the entrances and exits to this subdivision would be, you know, how the layout would be. Is there some place where we can view that and see that?
Well, I will answer that one question in the fact that at this stage of the process, the Planning Commission is only involved with the respective land use change. The actual details of construction plans, infrastructure improvements, locations of the property, that comes during development review. If it does go forward, if it should go forward, there's another set of processes, another set of rules that govern that. And quite honestly, this board doesn't get to take any of that into account in making our decision. Unfortunately for you, for whatever. So
That's interesting, because you would think to be able to make such a decision, you would need to see a visual as to what it's going to look like, particularly where the traffic flow is going to be. Because if we're talking on Timmins, we're all screwed. Okay, this is not going to work. I mean, this is jacked up. And that's the only place it's going to be able to go through. So it's interesting that decisions would be made without seeing that seeing that visually. I do find that very interesting. But this is a bad idea. 2 homes per acre is insane. 1 home per acre is honestly pushing it with our infrastructure. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Beth Bellerose. My address is 10122 Timmins Road. I'm directly across from this property that is being addressed. One thing that has not been brought up tonight is the animals. Unless you've been out there, you would not realize how much animal life we have out there. At night, if you go out there, you will hear coyote, and nobody has talked about that. When you put all these homes in, these animals are going to go away. We have, believe it or not, peacocks out there, wild, running around. We have gopher turtles everywhere out there, moles, which all of our yards have probably got moles everywhere in them, but there are tons of them out there. You have owls, you have birds that, cardinals. I had baby cardinals that were raised on my front porch because they built a nest. When you bring all these houses in, our kids won't have this. They won't get to see this type of wildlife. That's why we're all out there, is because we like the nature, we like the quiet, we like our privacy. And when you bring in all these homes, it's going to change the dynamics of our neighborhood completely. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Ms. Bellerose. Was there anybody else from across the hall?
Hi, Karen Mahalski, 7903 West Whitewater Court. I would like to support that this is inconsistent for our comprehensive plan for a couple of reasons. I noticed that part of this portion, I believe, is in the 100-year flood plan, which is very critical. Building in a flood plan is going to affect not just that certain area, but definitely neighbors. Also, I noticed that there are different sections which are protected for surface water, I believe. I would like the Planning Commission to review that and to check that this is correct. And to all the residents who are local, how you can stop this in the future is you guys start getting conservation easements. You get wildlife corridors. Work with the Hillsborough area. Where you can make wildlife corridors. If you get wildlife corridors that are designated on the comprehensive plan, then you can fight these a lot stricter because you have designation of your land. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there anyone else?
How y'all doing? My name's Craig Maliki. I live at 9929 108th Avenue. What hasn't been brought up is that when I first moved in out there, I have two kids. One's 10 now, one's 9. I used to walk down Timmons with them in their strollers every day. Since we've got the new complexes in there, there is so much traffic going down our road. I don't feel safe going off 108th Street with my kids. I have a 1-year-old now. And I would like to push her down Timmons, but as far as like, you got so many spots that are one car, people coming down through there 50 miles an hour since they added a light at Williams and Harney Road. It changed the GPS. Everybody's coming down our road. It's just unbelievable how much traffic has been over just the last year since they added the houses. You know, I mean, this would just be crazy. I mean, that's all I got to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Maleki. I don't see anybody else.
I got one more thing to say.
You get one bite. If there wasn't anybody else across the hall, the applicant gets 3 minutes for rebuttal or response.
Again, thanks for all the neighbors being united. I am neighbor. I'm a farmer. I'm not a developer or anything, which some of those guys said. Regarding the Terra Arcla, this site which I shown you, within last 4 years, there may be 50 feet improvement from the impact of the water mitigations. So this is happening since almost like 6-7 years, and mitigation might take more than 10 years. So that's why water is contaminated, and we don't know it will take 1 year or 10 years to get the good water results, because water testing is going on. Last week they were testing, and no words from EPA, federal agency, saying when it will be done. Because of the federal agencies running this project, there is, I don't think in last 5 years, any well permit is provided on Timmons Road for drinking water. And for this project, when we talk about this board, we are talking about only 2-3 things where there is a efficient use of our land as well as the public and private investment at this location. We got the water, and millions of dollars are spent either federal or county there. We got the fiber optic connections, which will be the future generation for smart cities. We got the fiber connections. So those are some of the things, private and public investment happen there. That is the reason we are asking half acre. Otherwise, we might stick to our neighbor, which we recently got as a 1 acre. But the reason of half acre is only because there is a public and private investment in the area, on the road, on the site available at this time. So those are the things need to be considered from strategic. The next phase, like tactical and operational, those will come in a rezoning, zoning aspect, what need to be done. Definitely there are some road issues and trees and things grown. It is all operational with the counties. I don't know this board has anything in that perspective, those are the things I want to put as my last comments.
Okay, thank you, sir. Before I get into any comments or questions from commissioners, I would like to say that while we do get crowds at times, it is unusual to see this many diverse people of a like mind. But with that, I would like to say, do any board members have any questions or comments from staff?
I would just like to share that, I live in a rural area, and I think as we see development encroach closer and closer to us, it's hard to visualize these wide open expanses getting filled up, but it is unfortunate. I think several of you said 1 acre, one house per acre as a minimum. I really think of that as probably the definition of rural acreage. The 2 units to the acre is, I think, a stretch for this neighborhood for sure. And I have driven that road before, and it is almost a 1 lane. I mean, it may be a lane and a quarter. But again, in our case, we can't take into consideration, entranceways or anything like that that's addressed by the PD. That would be at the PD process. So I think 2 houses per acre is going to be a little excessive for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Buzza. If I see questions or comments or...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very quickly, I'd like to echo Commissioner Buzza's sentiments. And I'd like to also commend Krista for this briefing package. I think it's complete. I think it's clear, and it really helped me make up my mind about how I would vote on this issue. I'm particularly I like the fact that the specific policies that identify neighborhood protection, even though this is a rural neighborhood, rural development patterns were indicated here, and I think with all that's been said from these community members, I would, if I may, like to go ahead and move for a finding of inconsistency for Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan Amendment 18-05.
I'll second.
Okay, well, with that, I'm going to close. No, we didn't. So, but I've got, yeah, I know what you're trying to do. I didn't particularly see any more questions from anybody, so I will close public comment, and I will entertain that motion from Commissioner Green and second by Commissioner Thrower to find it inconsistent. And now I will ask, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries unanimously by members present.
Can I,
Yes,
if I
ma'am.
may, just add that, just so we're clear, the Planning Commission found it inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. There is a Board of County Commissioners public hearing at 6 o'clock on Thursday night on this same matter.
Where am I? That brings us to item number 3 on our agenda. We have could I please ask you to move out of the room and keep it somewhat quiet so we can proceed, please? Bring us to item HCCPA 18-08, Future Land Use Text Amendment. Mr. Kranchak. It's all right. It's all good. Make sure they know. Please proceed, Mr. Kranchak.
Okie dokie. Randy Kranchak, Planning Commission staff. Good evening, Commissioners. This is a text amendment to the future land use element, 18-08. You heard all of the information on this at your afternoon regular meeting. Again, this is the public-initiated text amendment, adds a new policy, 21.4, modifies policy 9.3, and again, this deals with the non-conforming legal mobile home parks. Again, real quickly, that was to allow for the redevelopment of legal non-conforming mobile home parks at densities higher than the comprehensive plan. Before I go into this new policy, I just want to add that the language that was added by the Development Services Department in their information basically stated that should these mobile home parks redevelop with a different housing type at the same densities, that would not be used as a precedent or as a reason to increase densities in the area. Just wanted to clarify that and make a note of that. So this policy reads, as you can see, where mobile home parks in the urban service area have lawfully permitted densities which exceed the comp plan, the redevelopment of affordable housing is permissible at the same density pursuant to the requirements of the Land Development Code, and Mr. Hisney went over that this afternoon with the Land Development Code amendment. Such projects shall be exempt from the density bonus qualifying criteria found in the comprehensive plan's housing element. And then Policy 9.3, I'm not going to read that, but it addresses legal non-conforming uses and how they go away sometimes, if discontinued, et cetera, et cetera. However, this basically says, except in conformance with Policy 21.4, to acknowledge the ability of mobile home parks to redevelop if they are legally non-conforming and in the urban service area. So, again, consistency, consistent with Objective 1 in the future land use element. Again, Policy 7, which we went over this afternoon. The county creates incentives to make such development within the USA desirable and cost affordable. There are other policies and objectives in the staff report, but again, that is the essence of this text amendment, to allow the legal non-conforming mobile home parks to redevelop. And the recommendation is that the Planning Commission recommends that this amendment is found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County. So that is it in a nutshell.
Thank you, Mr. Kranchak. Mr. Hisney, do you need to speak? Okay. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to address the commission with regards to this specific amendment? Seeing none, are there any questions for, you know what, we gotta wait for somebody to return before we can vote. I only have 5.
I have a question.
You have a question? Ask a question.
This change to the comp language, so this basically means that right now we have 3 types of bonuses that the comp plan provides. So this would basically allow anyone coming into a mobile home park and redeveloping it to change the housing type and to no longer be beholden to the requirements to achieve these 3 different types. This kind of wipes the slate clean of all that and goes directly to the Land Development Code.
Well, as long as they develop at the same density or less, but not greater than. If they would want additional densities, there may be some things we could look at, There are other bonuses available. But if they just wanted to come in and, let's say, eliminate the mobile home park and redevelop it with townhomes, and let's say that there's 100 mobile homes there, they could put up 100 townhomes.
And again, this, like the last one, kind of skips the process of the Board of County Commissioners review and.
Well, it will, what this amendment to the future land use element does is enable that land development code to be changed to be consistent, but yes, it does skip the process.
Okay, thank
So
you.
nothing's really different than what happened this afternoon.
Commissioner Buzza.
I would like to restate my objections from earlier. This incentivizing of transition from mobile parks to low-income housing. In the construction world, there's no such thing as low-income housing. Construction cost per square foot on an apartment, site-built, wood frame, $85 a square is about as cheap as you're going to get. A brand-new mobile, $40 a square foot if you got lot rent or space rent. This directly affects the lowest working poor, retirees, if we're incentivizing this housing product to come out of the market. So I'm completely against it. Thank you.
Understood.
Thank you, Commissioner Buzza. Any further questions from commissioners? Public comment will be closed, and I will entertain a motion.
I move that we find unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan Amendment HC CPA 1808 consistent with the future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County and forward it to Board of County Commissioners for approval.
I have a motion by Commissioner Marino and a second by Commissioner Kress. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries with Commissioner Buzza and Commissioner Joseph against.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kranchak. That adjourns our Hillsborough County public hearing, and I will open our City of Tampa public hearing. Welcome you to the August 13th, 2018 public hearing of the Planning Commission on Tampa Comprehensive Plan Amendments. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your comments and participation are encouraged. If you will, please sign the register at the rear of the room. Turn off any devices that may be a distraction. If you wish to address the commission on a specific amendment, we ask that you please complete the appropriate public comment sign-in sheet at the rear of the room. When addressing the commission, please begin with your name and address and speak directly in the microphone. And for those of you who are not familiar with our process, the meeting will be conducted as follows. Agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following presentations, members of the public may address the commission when recognized by the chair. Public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person, and the applicant will have a 3-minute period for rebuttal or response. Planning commissioners will ask questions. Public comment will be closed, and upon a motion and a second discussion, a vote will be taken. Can we have roll call, please?
Buzza. Here. Dix. Green. Joseph.
Here.
Kress. Here. Marino.
Here.
Thrower.
Here.
Wilds. Dickerson.
Here.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Downey.
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Brings us to item number 2, TACPA 18-05. Mr. Hay.
Good evening, Commissioners. David Hay with your Planning Commission staff. The next amendment, the first one for your review, is Tampa Map Amendment 1805. The general location, this is in the West Shore Planning District. It is also located in the boundaries of the Carver City, Lincoln Gardens neighborhood. You can see it here, right, highlighted. Here's an aerial of the subject site. The subject site is here. This is Manhattan. We've got Roland Park Elementary to the west. And then these are the Millennial West Shore apartments. Directly to the north, there is single-family detached. As we move this way, there's the Loretta Ingram Center, and then more single-family detached to the south. This is West Shore Boulevard and Boy Scout. little background, this is privately initiated, is a small scale. It's approximately 1.03 acres. The request, currently the site has a residential 10 future land use category, and the applicant is seeking to go to residential 20. Additional background, this may look familiar to you. This site was subject of a previous map amendment, TA-CPA 1609. It is the same exact request as that amendment, 1609. Planning Commission staff recommended approval. The Planning Commission did find the request inconsistent on a 5-2 vote. Tampa City Council did deny the request when it did go to hearing, and the staff's original recommendation, though, remains the same as 1609. Policies have not changed. Here we're going to look at some pictures of the subject site. Here we're looking east toward the subject site from North Manhattan Avenue. Here we're looking west from North Manhattan Avenue. The subject site is behind me in the picture. Here we're across the street from the subject site looking southeast down North Manhattan Avenue. The subject site is right over here. Roland Park Elementary is over on this side, and this is going south down Manhattan. You can see the single-family detached residential immediately to the south. This is looking north from the subject site, up Manhattan Avenue. This is that West Shore Millennium Apartments. The subject site is right here, and then there's single-family detached behind these trees. Here we're looking southwest from the subject site into Roland Park Elementary. Here we're looking southeast from the intersection of West Main Street and North Manhattan Avenue. You can see the single-family detached. Here we have the adopted future land use map. You can see the subject site and the properties to the north, east, and south are all that residential 10. You've got public, quasi-public immediately to the west. Again, public, quasi-public has no floor area ratio or no maximum development maximums. And then you have the regional mixed use 100, approximately 250 feet to the north. Here is the subject site if the residential 20 is approved. Next, we have the potential impacts. Currently under the residential 10, there are 10 dwelling units that could be considered, or a maximum of 15,703 square feet. Under the potential under residential 20, that maximum goes up to 20 dwelling units, or a total of 22,433 square feet. The proposed amendment would allow for that increase in maximum density and non-residential square footage. It would not meet commercial locational criteria either under the 10 or the 20. As usual, we do send these out to our partner agencies, and we did get some objections from the City of Tampa's Planning and Urban Design Department. Those are included within your packet. Planning Commission staff reviewed the comprehensive plan and found that the proposed request for residential 20 would be consistent with the adopted policy guidance within the comprehensive plan. Like previously, we found three main areas of consistency. One area is the promotion of a mixture of uses and residential housing types. The proposed residential 20 would allow for a greater variety of housing types while also being sensitive to the existing single-family residential. Regional Mixed Use 100 is located approximately 250 feet to the north of the subject site. Also, an important consideration, again, is that public, semi-public does not provide for a maximum floor area ratio, so it is possible that an additional intensity may be developed on the school site in the future. Another area of consistency is regarding the promotion of residential infill. The subject site is directly adjacent to the West Shore Employment Center, and the proposed residential 20 will allow for the potential of more residential units in proximity to employment, shopping, and transit options. That's consistent with Housing Policy 1.3.4. Lastly, the proposed plan amendment is consistent with a number of residential development and redevelopment-related policies. The subject site is uniquely situated with an east-west orientation, oriented toward the west toward Roland Park Magnet School, while the surrounding single-family detached is oriented north-south along West Main Street and West Green Streets. The residential 20 also provides for a more appropriate transition between that public, semi-public on the west and the single-family detached to the east of the neighborhood. So based on that, Planning Commission staff's recommendation to you all this evening is that the map amendment be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan. That concludes my presentation. I believe LaShawn Dock from the city would also like to address the commission. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. LaShawn Dock, Planning and Development. City Planning staff reviewed the request, and we have objections to the request. The objections are mostly related to the development potential allowed under the requested R20 land use category. As you're aware, the site currently is surrounded to the north, to the east, and to the south with existing single-family residential development. And staff feels that the potential allowed under the R20 is not appropriate in that location. Within your packet, you'll find the city's comments. I'd like to review a couple of the land use policies that are listed within the city's comments on that packet. And I'll just review a couple of them briefly. Under Land Use Policy 9.5.1, it speaks to protection of low-density single-family areas. Under Land Use Policy 9.5.2, it speaks to maintaining the character of single-family residential areas. Land Use Policy 9.5.4 speaks to maintaining the current density and character of existing single-family areas and protecting areas of the lowest intensity of development that are currently in predominantly single-family residential use. And this area has been predominantly residential single-family now for years. If I can have the Elmo, I'd like to put up a map of the area. So this is from the, this is the Neighborhood Association. This is Carver City Lincoln Gardens Civic Association boundary. So it is bordered to the north with Boy Scout Boulevard. To the west, to orient you, is this is West Shore Boulevard. To the east is Del Mabry. To the south is West Cypress Street. This is the parcel that is in question currently. This is outlined in blue and is starred in blue. This is Manhattan Avenue. So the development along Boy Scout is more intensive. You have your mixture, you have your commercial uses along Boy Scout. As you head south on Manhattan, the development pattern changes. You have your multifamily residential along Spruce, along with the mixture of commercial uses along Spruce Street. As you head south, further south, and you get to Main Street, that is when that development pattern changes to your residential single family, which is identified by these lot sizes. So this is all on the east side of Manhattan Avenue, is single family residential. On the west side of Manhattan, you have that different development pattern, which is the school that exists there, which is your public, quasi-public. Within the comprehensive plan, it describes, thank you, it describes the area of West Shore, which includes Lincoln Gardens, Carver City. And it does mention that West Shore Palms, North Barn Air, they're all older single-family detached condominium, townhome, and apartment developments, while Lincoln Gardens and Carver City are primarily single-family detached neighborhoods. So the request is for an R20, and currently it is an R10 land use category. One thing to consider is the development pattern of this block and the uniqueness of this block. Within the same neighborhood, just 2 blocks south, I've outlined this block, which is outlined in yellow. This is Manhattan Avenue on the west. This is Hubert Avenue on the east. So this would be considered maybe your typical block, surrounded with street network on each side of the block. The parcels abut each other in the rear, and then you have the homes facing either side of the street to the north or the south. In this case, this is a subject parcel, and it is surrounded to the north with single-family residential and immediately to the south with single-family residential. On the east of this site, this contains 4 parcels, but it is developed as single-family residential. So within the report, what has been provided to you, the requested R20 allows for an increased density intensity out of character with the existing single-family neighborhood and inconsistent with the comprehensive plan goals, objectives, and policies. Given the size of the site, the number of residential units allowed, and the requested R20 land use category, it will not maintain the current single-family density which exists in the immediate surrounding area. Lastly, I'd like to remind the commission, as has been mentioned, November 14, 2016, this was before this commission. This is the same request, the same property. It was found inconsistent. That recommendation was forwarded to City Council. City Council denied the request. And we're asking for the same finding tonight. And I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Dock. Mr. Haid is the applicant here and wish to make a presentation.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, and your staff. My name is John Grandoff. My address is Suite 3700, Bank of America Plaza, and I have the pleasure of representing Onyx and East Limited Liability Company and the Site Real Estate Company this evening. I'm joined by Mr. Michael Mintzberg and several of his assistants. Primarily, Mr. Tom King will come forward and explain to you the research that he has completed in speaking to the neighborhood about the project and gaining their support to present to you this afternoon. After Mr. King speaks, I will speak and go through the planning report, and then we request a brief amount of time for rebuttal. So I'm going to introduce Mr. King at this time.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Thomas King. I'm the Vice President of Acquisitions and Development for Site Real Estate. We are a local infill urban developer based in Ybor City. I've also lived within the city of Tampa for the past 15 years and also a proud USF graduate. My firm, Site Real Estate, has a 7-year history renovating and developing projects within Carver City. In total, we have renovated over 30 homes that were either condemned or abandoned in the neighborhood. We also have secured land for a local developer to bring 15 new homes to the community. I want to start my presentation by emphasizing that the Planning Commission staff report found this project consistent with the comprehensive plan. This project has a single-family 2-story height that is compatible with the neighborhood and the surrounding homes to this project. So structure to structure, they're compatible. I want to reference the Elmo. Our project is represented in the gold star. Is there a way to zoom in? There we go. What I'm trying to depict in this aerial is that our project is requesting 20 units per acre. There's a number of projects surrounding this plot of land that has an RMU of 100. So we're asking for a lot less units per acre than previously approved neighboring projects. I want to point out another aerial here. As mentioned before, this project has a Manhattan Avenue orientation, which is a main thoroughfare that borders the neighborhood, limiting traffic within the internal neighborhood streets. The important point here with this aerial is that you can see that the land has unique conditions and hardship considering the back two lots do not have access, making the change in the future land use the first step in the planned development. What I'm referencing is the 111592 and the 111593. Next, I'd like to talk to you about how neighborhood engagement is very important to us. I made every effort to involve and include the neighborhood and their opinions with this project. I presented the development to the leadership of Carver City's Neighborhood Association Board of Directors. I then presented the development to over 50 neighbors at the general meeting and then opened the floor for an extended dialogue, engaging in questions and took in considerations and recommendations on this project. I even offered the opportunity for the Civic Association to participate in the naming of the street that would be created. I then went door to door several times speaking with neighbors to inform them about this project. From this engagement, we have signed letters of support from over 34 homeowners and residents and business leaders. We even have support from John Ingram. He's a 50-year resident who his late wife, Loretta Ingram, was honored with the naming of the Neighborhood Community Center in her honor for her neighborhood advocacy. I also have Willie Mitchell, a 48-year resident who lives on the street, on Main Street, who has lived in the, as I mentioned, 48 years, and he's also in support of this project. I want to pass these out. Can we reference back to the Elmo? How do you zoom here? That's perfect. Through this process of engagement, the neighbors had concern about us building an apartment complex. I want to show you the renderings here that we have that are similar to what we plan to build, and this is something I also showed to the Neighborhood Association. I clarified that the R10 to R20 future land use does not change the allowed height of the project, and our plan is to build compatible two-story, single-family attached homes that will not be for rent, but for sale, promoting home ownership. The important aspect that I want to share here is the design that we have. Single-family home design. Also, this project adheres to the compatibility neighborhood plan process policies for unit count, height, traffic, and design. What I'm trying to show here on this site map is if you reference the adjacent properties to the north, the size of our structure is similar to the size of the structures of the neighboring single-family homes to the north. Thank you. And mathematically, more density creates more affordability. What I'm referencing here is on this land, we are replacing one very expensive home with 20 homes at a fraction of the price. And by definition, that's affordability. I wanted to conclude to show you that this project promotes home ownership and the long-term commitment of the future residents to this neighborhood. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
The letters that Mr. King handed out, where are they? Are they going around? Okay, good. I want to read the letter that's going around to the board. Reads as follows. The purpose of this letter is to notify you that we have received the proposed plan development, referencing the file number, at 1607 North Manhattan Avenue, and we support this project. The project would take a small single-family residence and vacant parcels of land with no street access and transform it into a high-quality housing that encourages home ownership and is compatible with the Carver City neighborhood. Respectfully, and then it is signed by the folks that signed the letter, and it's going around to each of you. What's interesting to note about this property is it was platted as Forest Heights back in 1939. that time, this part of the city was Hillsborough County, and plat, you could show that on the overhead. Hold my time while we're adjusting this. The plat, here we go. Carved out the north 150 feet of Lot 17 along Manhattan Avenue. And it has virtually stayed that way since 1939, with one home right here at the front and two other parcels under different folio numbers landlocked. So the only way to develop this 1 acre property is to create a central spine and then a cul-de-sac, as Mr. King has shown you in the site plan that he presented. It's a creative layout for the project and is consistent with the neighborhood. Furthermore, there is no access to the east, so a cul-de-sac project, which is a classic single-family layout, is possible. In the staff report by Mr. Hay, page 5, policy 9.3.5 says, generally the location of single-family attached housing shall be limited to the periphery of established single-family detached neighborhoods. It's exactly what we're doing. However, single-family attached housing may be considered if it can be demonstrated that they can be integrated with single-family residential detached uses by mitigating their impacts, if any. Policy 1.3.6 continues and says, we must continue to develop a comprehensive strategy for providing additional workforce housing. Now remember, this is in the West Shore Business District, the largest DRI in Florida. Workforce housing, serving moderate to middle income workers, promote the location of workforce housing close to employment and or multimodal transportation facilities. The interstate is immediately to the south. And Mr. King showed you the several RMU 100 plan designations that are in the circumference of this area. This is an R20, very consistent attached housing project through this plan amendment. Mr. Hay concludes on page 7, since the subject site is located on the edge of an established single-family detached residential neighborhood and due to its location oriented towards adjacent public school, that's to the west, the request for residential 20 would provide an opportunity to afford a more appropriate transition of density from the adjacent public, semi-public future land use category to the west, that is the school, to the remaining residential 10 future land use category located to the east and south of the subject site. In other words, this is a transitional land use category, and you are always wanting to have a logical transition from a public, semi-public use or commercial use to single-family uses, and R10 provides that transition in your plan. Mr. Hay concludes and finds currently the 1 acre subject site provides for one residential unit. Remember the plat that I showed you. This site is clearly underutilized. The comprehensive plan promotes residential infill, especially within proximity to employment and transit service. The request for R20 would provide a more appropriate development pattern for this portion of the West Shore Planning District. Excuse me for a moment, I want to check my notes. This project is compatible and consistent. It solves the limited access constriction with the property. And as to the comments from the City of Tampa, you are the policymakers in land use planning, and you consider whether the R10 still serves this property. I submit to you that it does not, that the 1 acre is more better suited with an R20 designation. To me, the City of Tampa's comments should be deferred until a plan development application is brought to the City of Tampa Planning Department and Zoning Department for review under a more appropriate plan category, which would be the R20. At that time, the city should then weigh in on the intricate details of a land use plan, setbacks, landscaping, stormwater management, access management. At that time, the city's comments are more relevant. Today, your input is what counts. It's your policy making that what counts, not the city's comments as to this application. I implore you to consider what your charge is as planning commissioners and approve this application this evening for the R20 designation. That concludes our comments at this time. I'll return with Mr. Mintzberg for a brief rebuttal. Thank you.
Thank you. We need to open it up to public comment. I have a number of people that are signed up to speak on this. I believe Ms. Gloradine McNair, I called you last time, but this is yours, right?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I am Gloradine McNair, and I live at 4321 West Green Street, the property that abuts the back of the property that is being considered for rezoning. I have read the packet of information that the petitioners prepared, and I agree with some of what is reported. The property is a gold mine, and there's property in the community that is in need of restoration. However, the property that they are seeking to rezone does not fall into the category of needing restoration. The homes in this area are well maintained, even though some of it is rental property. Observing sites that these petitioners have restored, I agree that they have enhanced the appearance of the community. And I also know that they were lucrative to them. I would like to see them continue to do that without changing the face of our community. Though the proposed structures for the site are charming, they are not commensurate with the existing homes in the community. Developers' reports point out that they could build 10 to 12 homes, sell them at $300, in excess of $300,000 per home. I suggest that they use this means of developing the property. My experience is that permitting the proposed structures to be built has a negative effect upon our property, creating such problems as unaffordable cures such as drainage problems. I have witnessed this because it has happened to properties of relatives in the community. Carver City Lincoln Garden is one of a few communities in the city representing our heritage. We would like to see it preserved by not permitting structures of different zonings to infiltrate our communities. Our forefathers were granted permission to build on this site because at the time it was very undesirable. They accepted it because they had no recourse. They moved in on land, some of them dwelling in shelters that were constructed of cardboard boxes and tin until they could afford these modest homes that we have. Many of them are gone, but we are here, and we still feel that there's a need for our community to exist as it is. I don't believe that if one of you were living in the area and this land was available behind your home, that you would want such structures to come in. They're charming, but they're not commensurate with our zoning. And we would appreciate you letting it remain as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a, sorry. I have a Steve Greco.
Hello, good evening. My name is, as you said, Steve Greco. I live at 4224 West Nassau Street at the, in Carver City. I moved from Carrollwood about 3.5 years ago because I work at Corporate Center 3 at International Plaza, and I love all the amenities that are afforded around where I moved to. I bought a house that was unlivable with trees growing out of the windows for $25,000 and put up a new one-story house, which I love. I'm very happy there. I would like to bring up a few points. The lady from the city of Tampa that represented the staff's opinion, I feel like she left out some important facts that I don't know if anybody that doesn't live in the neighborhood would be aware of. The first one is that that block where this proposed development is much wider than all the other blocks that are in there for some reason. And if you look at the lots right across from that Ingram Community Center, you'll see how incredibly big that one lot is. So it has way more room than all the other blocks there. I would also like to say that over half of Carver City has already been up-densified. If you look back 5 or 10 years ago, there used to be, you drive down at the edge of all those neighborhoods and you'd see, hey, signs for sale, want to put up a motel, want to put up a luxury apartment. Grady Square's there, Novus, Varela. Everywhere around there, there's an extended stay motel a block and a half from there. And if you look at, if the people that live in the Carver City neighborhood are so concerned about overgrowth and things that don't fit in, I would encourage them to take a look at the back of the 6-story parking garage that Novus has that looks over this proposed development and half of our neighborhood. And I have a real issue. I understand wanting to preserve the character of the neighborhood and families. I totally can support that. But until somebody addresses the problem of drugs that are being sold up and down Hubert Avenue and all the crime and the vagrancy and the loitering that goes on there, I feel like, what are we really holding on to? If we have an area where there's mobile, I'm sorry? I feel like if people don't want progress, they can buy the land that's there. And if we're right by an airport, we're right by the multimodal center, we're right by shopping, people are coming and going through this whole area, it needs to have places where people can walk. The West Shore Alliance, which I'm involved in, is heavily promoting bike lanes, slowing down traffic, putting up stop signs, putting up speed bumps to make it pedestrian friendly. If you're worried that you're going to get mugged or that you're going to be propositioned to buy drugs as you walk through your own neighborhood, what are we really holding on to? Oh, I think that's my time. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Michael Mintzberg. All right. I have a Rick Fernandez. He was in the other one? That's what I get for, that's why, yeah. They doubled my pay yesterday. How did that do? Jim McCarthy.
Good evening, Jim McCarthy, 1317 West Woodlawn Avenue. I'm here in support of the R20. I'm a local home builder. We specialize in urban single-family homes. We are probably the largest single-family urban builder in the city of Tampa and St. Petersburg. I'm in support of the project because for a number of reasons. When I go into a neighborhood that we're going to build in, one of the first things we do is we meet with local leaders and neighbors. And I can tell you that Carver City and Lincoln Gardens was not treated very well in the past when all those high-density apartments happened. There was dialogue that there was promises made, and they never saw the benefit of all the things that they were told. The impact fees, all those things, it was not reinvested into that neighborhood. So I think from a perspective of anything that is attached, I think that there's a lot of resistance. This is not, as you can tell, Site and Onyx and East. And if you haven't noticed, if you ever looked at who Onyx and East is, they are a premier urban developer out in Indianapolis. We are blessed to have them in our community. Onyx and East is doing attached single-family homes here. It's one way in, one way out off of Manhattan. If this was mid-block in the neighborhood, I wouldn't be here in support of it. But I agree. This neighborhood is in need of a little bit of sprinkling in of new construction. And this project is very appropriate. It's by the elementary school. As alluded earlier, it's in the West Shore Business District. The airport is with thousands of jobs. There's such a demand for affordable, good product. And if you saw the renderings, this is good quality product. So again, I am pleased to be here in support of this. But at the same time, when neighborhoods come, and in the past, and they've opposed to the high density, and they get promises that are not kept, somebody needs to pay attention to this. This is what, I don't think this will ever happen again, but that's what good neighborhoods and good advocacy is all about. Thank you.
You should have.
All right, hang on a second. Just because I don't have them in front of me doesn't mean that they're not here. So if you are wishing to speak on this, then yes, please come and name and address.
My name is Janie Glenn, Janie Eagle Glenn. I came up here, I was here once before, and I wish you all would open your hearts and minds and just think of what you're trying to do or what you think you're going to do. This, when we moved out there, hairmedders, snakes, possums, everything was out there. Nobody wanted that part out there because it was the woods. We raised our children out there. We suffered to get it out there. Over now in Lincoln Garden, they done took the place out there where those children used to play. They can't hardly go out there and play no more over in Lincoln Garden because you got everything else going on out there, and those children don't have no place to play. Because the airport, because the shopping center down below, all that behind Jefferson School and all that, now you all, the builders, whoever it is, want it, and you want us to move out. You come in, we had a paper from a bookman saying our houses hadn't got old and ageable. We struggle to get those houses. We struggle to pay for them. We struggle to live there and raise our children. And now you want to come out there and say, you're going to put this in here so we can push us out. Think we don't have no feelings? What's wrong with you? We have feelings too. We love our community, where we live. We know about that. Don't try to push us out to make you look good, because we all in the same boat. I'm going to tell you something now. When you came into the world, you didn't have nothing. When you go out, you ain't going to have nothing, because this is God's world. And stop trying to take everything.
Thank you, ma'am.
It makes me sick. I can't take it. You all think about yourself. Put yourself in our shoes. As long as it was woods, you didn't want the woods. But now you can walk to a store. You can walk wherever you want to go.
Thank you,
now
ma'am.
you want it.
Please, sir.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Maurice Harvey. I live at 3913 West Palmetto Street. I also represent my mother at 4315 Green Street, which is adjacent to the property, almost next door to Miss McNair and across the street from Miss Glenn. I submitted to the record letter. I'm also the vice president of the Carver City Lincoln Garden Civic Association, in which Mr. King did present. I'm submitting to her a letter of opposition and petitions of about 80, 85 signatures opposed to the change. This request, and this is our second time coming here, we were here just in November 14th of 2016, in which the request was denied here and was also denied with City of Tampa. There have been no changes to the plan. Site, they have a great presentation, it looks good, it's not a single family home. It's basically not a single family home that goes with the community. If we can get the, and I think that was their picture off of the Elmo. Yes. Okay, on their picture, three houses. Yeah. The house here is Miss McNair's house, the Dawson's house, my mother's house, and the Dawson's house. That's 4 houses. On the north side, there's 5 houses that are much smaller in density to what they're building. Their building is 2 stories. The majority of the houses, except for the corner portion of Miss McNair's house, is 2-story. The rest are single-family, 1-story homes. The buildings that they're pointed out earlier, those are along the north border of the Carver City Lincoln Gardens area, of where they built all the apartments that we were opposed to. And as Jim said, a lot of promises were made and a lot of promises weren't kept, and the things were not given as they were stated. Basically, this is a foothold into the community proper of what this is with the RSU 20. The RSU 10, it would provide 10 single-family homes, not 20, in an area that's a quarter of a block. Because when you look at that picture, 5 houses on one side, 4 houses on the other side, now you're trying to build 20 in the middle. That area is already overly populated as far as traffic, because on Hubert, with 3 schools along that area, those people would never get out of their house. It's not gonna happen, because it borders on the Roland Park, Jefferson, and Lavoie School. So we're in opposition to this, and there were not that many neighbors in agreement with the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I see someone else who wished to speak on this? If you're going to come, you need to line up.
Check. Hello. My name is Benson Macelake. I live at 4301 West Grace. I've lived in, I lived on 4107 West Grace for 2 years, and I moved down the street to the same street. So I'm to the community about 3.5 years. I actually walk my dogs on the Manhattan street, and the street they're talking about actually is wider than the other streets. There's plenty of apartments and other big-time properties in that area. I don't feel like it's that big of a difference, and I feel like any positive move in the neighborhood is a good positive move. So I think it's for growth and for people who just bought their house to obviously get, higher income housing. Not a lot, but definitely some, better homes and homes that don't have anything in it right now. I think it would be a good idea to add those 20. Thank you.
Thank you. Line up.
Good evening, everybody. I'll be short. My name is Patrick Rolando. I live on 4320 West Laurel Street. I wasn't going to talk, but I just want to say that I am very fortunate that I live 5 minutes from work now, and I was looking for a house for a long time. And on my house hunt, a lot of homes were showed to me in the same way that I wanted, but they were at least 45 minutes away. I have a lot of my coworkers who are not fortunate enough to have the commute that I have. A lot of people want to be closer to Tampa, but they have to live far because there is no homes around here. It's so I just think that there's such a big land. Right across the land, there's the school, and there is also a lot of apartment complexes. I think it's going to blend very well with everything else, this project. And why you're going to limit such a big land for one home when you can help maybe 10, 20 other families to be closer to work like I am fortunate. So that's all I wanted to say. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Fred Coutant. I live at 4303 West Laurel Street. I've lived there since 2012. I love the neighborhood. I have taken part in the beautification of a lot of the homes in Carver City. They were in horrible disrepair. And I can tell you firsthand that Site Real Estate, they care about the neighborhood. They don't just slap paint on it. They don't just put some new shingles on the roof or anything like that. They build these houses from the ground up, and I have personally taken part in that. As a matter of fact, I've hired quite a few people from the neighborhood to help fix these places up. I've lived there since 2012. My brother moved down from New York to join my company, and he lives there as well. I have another brother that came from Missouri that lives in the neighborhood. Everybody that I speak to is in support of this RS20. So I feel like this neighborhood, nobody really cared about it for a long time. These guys started bringing money in, they started fixing the places up, and everybody wants a piece of the pie now. This area right here is just, it's landlocked. There's nothing there. It's just woods right now. It only makes sense to bring more houses, the availability for more people to own homes in this neighborhood. I would have bought a house there myself, but there's really nothing available. All the people that are there have been entrenched for a long time. I just feel like that this development really fits in with the neighborhood, and any improvement is wonderful for the current residents as well as future people to move in. So that's pretty much all I have to say.
Thank you. 3 minutes for rebuttal.
Let's just start. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Michael Mintzberg with Site Real Estate, and I want to thank you all again for hearing this tonight. A lot of mention came up of the first denial, and I just want to address that real briefly. First time up, we didn't have enough communication with the neighborhood from either end. I reached out to the association. I didn't hear back. I could have made a stronger effort to explain the project and to the neighborhood in general. So that's why we came to try and push it forward, because there's a stigma in the neighborhood, and I totally get it with development that's going on. But I've been driving the streets of Carver City several times a week since 2010, and know many people there, and like I said, started buying homes and renovating them. And I think I just don't think if you haven't driven and walked the streets there yourselves many times, you don't understand how close these apartments are. Thank you. If you look at this apartment, this is UMU 100. It's bordering. Oh, sorry. Thank you. How do I zoom in? Well, anyway, this is bordering single-family homes. It's a parking garage facing the community. I understand why they're upset about development, but it's a stigma against these large apartment developers coming in and building these monstrosities in the middle of the neighborhood. This one too. It's right across. So it's just not, it's not the same thing, and I understand what they're scared of and what their concerns are. And I want to thank the one lady who, first lady who came up and commended us for some of the good work we did, and I appreciate that. That felt really good. Yeah, again, I mean, the design is not a parking garage with apartments. It won't allow for that density. The bonus not bonus FAR, but the additional FAR, as Mr. Hay showed on the screen, is 6,730 square feet across a whole acre. It's really not a huge jump. And again, to go back on the stigma, the city's arguments were to protect land policies, to protect single-family home neighborhoods. Where were they when UMU 100 was getting approved next door? It's just a different situation here, and I can understand that they've been hearing pushback. How did that get approved? But this is for single-family attached home. These are fee-simple homes that we'll be building here. Lastly, I just want to say we're committed to working with this neighborhood. After this is not the final step. There's going to be a PD rezoning in order to get something approved, as Mr. Grandoff said. So we'll be in front of the city to deal with setbacks, height, all of that, and we will work with the neighborhoods to try to design something that is as compatible as possible. So I just want to thank you. I think this is a great opportunity to promote home ownership for the business district there. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Joseph.
I have a question for Mr. Hay. I was here the first time around this went through and denied it, and I'm more than likely going to deny it again tonight. But just looking at these policies that we selected, staff selected again, to find this consistent, you have about 2 pages worth of policies here. And as I read through the policies, There's maybe 5 of them that deal with single-family residential. The rest of the policies are pretty vague and can be applied anywhere in the city. And I'm wondering, when I look at the city's policies that they use to base their objection on, they're specifically directed towards issues with single-family and changing the density of single-family. How does staff kind of ignore that and just go with the vaguer policies to call it consistent? Why wasn't there more consideration of the more specific single-family oriented issues that are going on?
First, let me pull up the city's report, so then I can reference the policies that you're discussing.
And specifically, I'm talking about maintaining the character of single-family residential areas, protecting low-density single-family areas, maintaining the current density and character of existing single-family areas. When we're going from R10 to R20, which is 100% increase, transitional areas, where's the transition occurring here? I mean, I'm seeing a lot of issues, and I'm just wondering how staff...
Remember when a single family attached in the city is still single family. It comes down to a definition. When we look at it at the comprehensive plan level, when they discuss single family, there's single family detached, semi-detached, and attached. They all fall under that single family. Multifamily, that's when you get into a different, where it's the multi-story, usually with the parking garage and things like that. I think there was a difference between the staffs on really what single family meant based on that definition.
Okay. And what about the vagary of the policies that we've chosen to wrap around the 5 mentions of single family? How did those...
Well, Planning Commission staff looked at the holistic policies dealing with the encouragement of residential infill. That is a policy citywide. There's also policy direction about creating additional housing choices in and near employment centers. And again, this is adjacent to the West Shore Employment District. It's directly across the street. The Planning Commission staff, again, part of our finding was based on that the quasi-public directly across the street, though currently developed at a low kind of one-story type development pattern, just in the city, there is no floor area ratio for that. So we have to look at what potentially could go there in the future, and that interface may not be what it is currently today of a one-story school. So there was a whole bunch of things that we looked at that we felt that pushed it over that, just similar to the last one, 1609, that it pushed it into the consistent finding.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions from commissioners? That I'll close public comment and entertain a motion.
I will make a motion that we find
1805.
What is it?
TACPA 1805.
TACPA 1805 inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, and we forward it on to the city of Tampa, and I would like to cite land use policies 1.23, land use policy 9.51, land use policy 9.52, and land use policy 9.54 in my inconsistency proposal motion.
Motion by Commissioner Joseph.
I will second that.
Second by Commissioner Buzza. Is there any discussion? All's in favor signify by aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner Kress against. You want to clarify like you did the last one?
Good evening, Commissioners. Jennifer Malone with your Planning Commission staff. I'm going to present on Land Use Map Amendment 1807. This is located in the Central Tampa Planning District as well as the East Tampa Urban Village. This is a privately initiated small-scale amendment at only 0.22 acres from residential 10 to community mixed use 35. This is an aerial of the subject site. I have it outlined in a star. Interstate 275 is out of frame, but if I was on here, it would be to the west. I'm sorry, to the east, where my mouse is, off screen. To the north, we have Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. I have North 15th Street right here, East Lake Avenue to the south. This is the subject site. We have single-family detached to the east, and I also have commercial uses. This is a dollar store to the north along East Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. I'm going to show some subject site pictures. This is the subject site. I've actually taken this from, it's located at the corner of East 32nd Avenue and North 15th Street. So this is on East 32nd Avenue, the local road. It's kind of on the corner of. And here's another view. You can see that corner. We have the local 32nd Avenue and then North 15th Street over here. And this is the subject site. This is south of the subject site. It's a sandwich shop within the area. This actually has the same future land use designation as the subject site, which is residential 10. These are some homes located along North 15th Street, kind of across the street from the subject site. These are homes located along East 32nd Avenue. The subject site's on that corner, so this is kind of along, if you were to go further along East 32nd Avenue, kind of down the street from the subject site, these are some of those residential homes. And then lastly, this is the home along East 33rd Avenue, so it's to the north of the subject site. And this residential home, it's hard to tell, but the subject sites, they kind of back up to each other. So this is the backyard, their backyards kind of interface. This is the adopted future land use map. The home I just pointed out in my last picture would be located right here. And so you can kind of see how their backyards back up to each other. It's residential 10, and then the red is community commercial 35. And the request before you is to change this to community mixed use 35, which is that pink color. The potential would increase from 5 units to about 17 units, and the square footage would also greatly increase from about 10,000 square feet under that residential 10, which has a very low floor area ratio, to about 43,000 square feet under the community mixed use 35, which has a higher floor area ratio and also allows a greater variety of uses. This amendment would allow commercial general zoning on that subject site and those associated uses, which LaShawn Dock will further explain when in the city's comments what that entails. And they did have objections from city staff citing compatibility concerns, which are included in the packet. Planning Commission staff also found this inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. It would be the first introduction of the community mixed use 35 future land use along this corridor, and I'll actually go back to my proposal. My proposed future land use map, that community mixed use 35 would be the first introduction on this corridor, that pink color. Unfortunately, the comprehensive plan calls for a sensitive transition between commercial and residential areas, and staff did not find that this would be consistent with that policy direction by providing that sensitive transition. This would also be against the comprehensive plan policies that promote the protection of residential areas, because we did not find that it would provide that sensitive transition that the comprehensive plan seeks to address. We also found that this would be out of context and scale in the surrounding area, which we have a policy that specifically states that these commercial uses have to be within context and scale of its surrounding area. There's predominantly single-family homes to the north and to the east of the subject site. And that concludes my presentation. We found it inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, and LaShawn Dock is here to speak on those city comments.
Good evening again, Commissioners. LaShawn Dock, City of Tampa Planning and Development. City planning staff reviewed the request, and we did have objections to the request regarding the intensity and the location of the subject site along 15th Street. I did also want to mention to you that this site is located within the East Tampa CRA, the Community Redevelopment Area. Whenever we have a site that's located within an area, I will send to that agency for review and comment. They did provide comment back, and I just wanted to, for the record, it should be included in your packet. There's an email that is included, but just for the record, I just wanted to state that they did not have an objection that the East Tampa Community Revitalization Partnership Land Use Committee, they met in July, on July 23rd, and they reviewed the request, and they voted in support of the requested future land use map amendment. And this was the revision from R10 to CMU 35. And they cited the close proximity of similarly sized commercial parcels within the area along the 15th Street corridor. So along MLK, and then also along to the south along Lake. But I did want to just put that into the record for you. And I'm available if you have any other questions.
Thank you. Is the applicant here? Would they like to make a presentation?
Good afternoon. My name is Wilbert Malthus. I reside at 17705 Crystal Cove Place, Lukes, Florida. I'm the owner of the property. In the past 10 or 15 years, that piece of property has always had a detail shop on it, and we want to continue with that. And if you go down 15th Street from Lake Avenue up to Martin Luther King, and on the east side of the street, there's no residents along that area. You got a body shop, you have a church, you have a sandwich shop, and then you have on the corner there a dollar store. So I think we are compatible. I talked with some of the neighbors. Many of the neighbors have told me that because the detail shop that we have there has not caused any problems. It's nice, quiet, and they don't have any problems. And it's a type of detail shop where all the work is done for car lots and auctions. And they drop the cars off in the morning and pick them up in the afternoon. So there's no problem. There's no traffic there. We are increasing the density. And many of the neighbors also, in fact, we employ 6 people there. It's employing 6 people. If they close us down, 6 people be out of work. That's number one. But the main thing is, I think it's very, very compatible to the neighborhood. It's been in operation there for over 15 years, and it's still in operation. And what really happened one day, City of Tampa's minimum housing standard people stopped by and said, hey, this is improper use for this property. So you need to get it rezoned. So I went down and talked with zone. They said, oh, you're RS10. And you need to be, 35. They gave about 4 or 5 different numbers. So you're going to have to go down and apply. So I did. I met with the Planning Commission staff. They made some recommendations. I went back down and talked to the city. They said it worked. I talked with members of the East Tampa Civic Association. They have no problem with it. I talked with some of the neighbors. They have no problem with the rezoning. So I'm just trying to figure out now, well, I'm hoping that you also feel the same way, that there'll be no problem. I'm here for any questions you ask. But if you're ever driven down 15 from Lake Avenue to Martin Luther King, and the east side of that property is all commercial. There's a church, a sandwich shop, garage, dollar store, everything. So it would be very compatible to the neighborhood, and we're not causing any high density of traffic. Anyone have any questions? I'm very open.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone, I don't have anybody signed up, but is there anyone in the public who wishes to address the commission with regards to this particular amendment? Okay, seeing none, are there any questions from commissioners? I will close public comment and entertain a motion. Somebody.
I move that we find proposed land use designation change for City of Tampa TA CPA 1807 from residential 10 to community mixed use 35, inconsistent with the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan for its recommendation to Tampa City Council.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Marino and a second by Commissioner Buzza. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner Kress against. Brings us to item number 4, TACPA 18-08. Mr. Hay.
Good evening, Commissioners. David Hay again with your Planning Commission staff. The next amendment for your review is Plan Amendment 1808. The subject site is located within the Central Tampa Planning District and is also located within the boundaries of the Palmetto Beach neighborhood. It's kind of located kind of to our southeast of here, a few miles to the southeast. Here we have an aerial roughly of the subject site. This is 22nd Street. This is 20th Street that goes into the Causeway Bridge that goes over McKay Bay. Of course, this is McKay Bay, the Palmetto Beach neighborhood, and then as you go west across 20th Street, it's industrial over into the port. Palmetto Beach is predominantly single-family detached. West of 22nd Street, there's some scattered duplexes in there. It starts transitioning more to a mixed-use pattern, mostly residential, some non-residential, west of 22nd Street. That's a little background. The subject site is privately initiated. It is small scale. It's approximately 3.82 acres. Currently, there's 2 future land use designations and some right-of-way. There's residential 20 on the north side, residential 10 on the north side, residential 20 in the middle and to the south, and then a small piece of some right-of-way. The applicant is seeking to go to community mixed use 35, similar to what's on parts of the property fronting along 22nd Street. Here we'll take a little tour of the subject site. Here we're looking west from the intersection of South Bermuda Boulevard and Saxon Street. This is Bermuda Boulevard. This is Saxon Street. This is the subject site. Here we're now pivoting a little more to the south, looking down South Bermuda Boulevard. This is McKay Bay behind the mangroves. This is the subject site, and Saxon is off to the right. Here we're looking west down Saxon Avenue. This is the subject site on the south side, and then this is predominantly single-family detached. Here we're moving south. We're basically in the middle of the subject site. This is looking east down Elmwood, so 22nd is behind me. This is looking out toward McKay Bay. The subject site is on both sides of the road here. I believe this street has been vacated officially previously. Here we're looking southwest from the intersection of Maple Avenue and South Bermuda Boulevard, so we're on the south end. This is the subject site right here, Bermuda, Maple, and then McKay Bay is over to the left. Now we've moved out down Maple Avenue. We're looking actually north up South 22nd Street. The subject site is here and behind these buildings where the tree is. Here we have the adopted future land use map. You can see again that the majority of the site currently has that residential 20 future land use category. There is some to the south. Then there's some residential 10 on the north going into that single family detached. And then there are portions under ownership that are already CMU on 22nd Street. This pink color is that community mixed use 35, the same as what the applicant is requesting. It then, as you move further west, transitions into that transitional use 24. That's that category that allows residential, commercial, and industrial. And then across 20th Street, it goes into the light and heavy industrial associated with the port. Here's if the application is finally approved, the entire site would go to that community mixed use 35. Oh, I did want to mention there is a very small sliver of environmental lands on the other side of Bermuda Boulevard. Here we have the potential impacts. Currently, the subject site can be considered for 66 dwelling units or a total of 76,556 square feet. Under the proposed, it would go up to 132 units or a maximum of 332,798 square feet. The proposed amendment would allow, again, for additional density and intensity, but would also allow for the introduction of the RM24 and CG zoning districts. The requirement to meet commercial locational criteria would also be removed as the community mixed use 35 does not have commercial locational criteria. As usual, we sent out the packet to our partner agencies. The City of Tampa's Planning and Urban Design Department found it inconsistent, and the Hillsborough County School Board did have a note, it's not an inconsistent, but a note that Blake would be over capacity. The Planning Commission staff reviewed the comprehensive plan and found that the proposed request for the expansion of the Community Mixed Use 35 future land use category would be inconsistent with the adopted policy guidance within the comprehensive plan. Your Planning Commission staff found three main areas of inconsistency. The comprehensive plan promotes the protection of the city's single-family residential neighborhoods. Currently, Saxon Street has a residential 10 on both sides, both the north and south sides of the roadway. The request to change the adopted residential 10 on that portion to the community mixed use 35 would not provide for an appropriate transition. Remember, under the community mixed use 35, you can consider up to CG uses. So the north side of the street would remain Res 10, while the south side would now be this community mixed use 35. The proposed CMU 35 is consistent with those adopted neighborhood protection policies due to that interface issue. Another area of concern is regarding the potential for commercial encroachment into established residential areas. I just touched a part on that on Saxon, but though the applicant has stated the desire to develop a mixed-use project, the potential exists for parcels to be developed with up to a commercial general uses. The CMU 35 category does not provide for commercial locational criteria. The potential for standalone commercial uses on parcels fronting Saxon Street or Bermuda Boulevard are a possibility. The proposed amendment is inconsistent with Land Use Policy 15.2.1. The subject site is also located within the coastal high hazard area. The comprehensive plan directs future populations away from the coastal high hazard area by encouraging that no net increase in these particular areas. Planning Commission staff examined the surrounding area and could not identify any areas that have seen a reduction in potential population to offset this proposed increase in density on the subject site. Therefore, Planning Commission staff found the request inconsistent with coastal management policies 1.1.5, 1.1.6, and 1.6.2. So, based on all that, the recommendation from the Planning Commission staff to you this evening is to find TA CPA 1808 inconsistent with the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan. That concludes my presentation. I believe the city doesn't have a presentation either. They found it inconsistent as well, but they're here for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hay. Is the applicant here wish to make a presentation?
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Michael Horner, 14502 North El Mirri Highway, representing the applicant and the owner, who is CTV Capital. With me tonight are representatives of CTV Capital, Mr. Kiefer Norris, Mr. Tom Fanko, who may be speaking at the end of my presentation or on rebuttal. With me also tonight is Mr. Michael Yates of the White House Group, who has done a traffic analysis for the hurricane evacuation, coastal high hazard issues. He's also available for any questions. So that was Mr. Hay's soft denial. He was kind enough to tell us that they had mixed feelings on this, and we appreciate that. We have been involved, Commissioners, on this property, involvement with the city planning staff for months. We also reached out to the leadership of this community of Palmetto Beach equally as long. My clients take this obligation very seriously. We didn't file this just to get a pretty color on a map. We actually had to think about the implications of what this entails. And one of those concerns that we had was the high numbers that the CMU 35 reflects. That CMU 35 is a plan sector that we really don't want in terms of the intensity and density. It's not a plan sector that, in our opinion, we have to have for the majority of the site, but we do need it to allow for vertical integration of some uses, residential, commercial, and office. So whether or not we can modify this plan between now and City Council remains to be determined. We are proposing residential next to residential on Saxon. We understand Mr. Hayes' concern on the staff review criteria. But again, Commissioners, this is not a rezoning forum. This is a comprehensive plan amendment. And we only have one choice and one bite at this apple. And that requires us to ask for all of it to be CMU 35 to match existing CMU 35 that we have so that we can have a unified, integrated master development. All of those issues, in fact, the neighbors reached out to us as well. We reached out to them in the last month or so. The meeting was held last Wednesday, and there were a number of questions asked about what is CMU 35. We went to the extent of showing some very, I think, illustrative conceptual elevations of this proposed development, at least our thoughts of what it could be. Certainly not a definitive plan. And at this time, I'm going to have Kiefer Norris hand out a package of those elevations just for your conceptual review and consideration. This is not binding. This is not a zoning application. These are merely representative illustrations of the thought process behind the CMU 35 application. The numbers don't lie, Commissioners, and we understand that. 3.82 acres times 43,560 times an FAR of up to 2.0 gets you to a huge number. And what is that number? It's about 333,000 square feet. Add that to the CMU 35 along 22nd Street that we already have on 1.2 acres, and that's another 105,000 square feet. We don't want any of that. But the CMU 35 allows for the integration of uses, most critically being an office component, which would be in the center of this, because we truly believe this development has to be a live, work, play environment. Not live, play, not work, play, a live, work, play environment. It has to have an office component, which is the majority of our proposed use, residential on all sides, residential only on Saxon, and then nominal retail support commercial along the corridors. We know we have our work cut out for us. We know that between now and City Council, we have to go through a litany of community meetings and reviews. And we've advised the residents that came out to our community meeting, we have no interest in filing any PD site plan until such time that we feel confident that it best represents their interests and our proposed interests as well. Palmetto Beach has been overlooked for years. There is no other competing project out there. There's no active redevelopment going on. My clients, CTV Capital, have closed on this property. This is not a flip. This is not a contract contingency. This is not where they sell the eastern portion of the Res 20 to Post Village and the western to a contractor for commercial along 22nd Street. They make their profit and they leave. My clients are here to stay. And I think the leadership of Palmetto Beach community realizes that, recognizes that, and supports those efforts. So we know that we have to put our money and our efforts and our resources where our mouth is so that we can lay out some very detailed site plans before we even enter that zoning process. We're just trying to get to first base, Commission. We're just trying to get to an overall unified opportunity so that we can file a PD site plan and then fully vet parking, loading, landscaping, tree placement, on-street, off-street, height, setback, FAR, types of uses, intensity. All of those issues will come to play during that PD rezoning process. It's not part of this venue. I'm sharing with you those elevations so that you can just get a feel for what we're looking for. The maximum square footage of retail is 6,000 to 8,000, maybe 10,000 maximum on the abutting roadways, excluding Saxon Street. As mentioned before, the office space, upwards of 70,000 square feet, is the most critical component. If we don't have people working in this community, they're not going to be able to afford residence. So why are we proposing this? We're proposing this because my client believes in this community, and my client believes that we can do something that constitutes a catalyst to more redevelopment. I read a Tribune article some weeks ago in the Tampa Tribune about Palmetto Beach being the most underutilized and essentially unrespected community development or community in this area. Why? Because the average lot sizes or the average lot values and house values are around $200,000 plus. We can do better than that, and we have a high percentage of rental occupancy of units. If you've been out in this community and you've driven up and down 22nd Street, you know we don't need more bars. We don't need more blighted structures. We need new development, redevelopment, and serve as a catalyst for other real estate investment in this neighborhood. This plan, this property, 5.2 acres, is already approved as a PD. We already have a PD zoning in place. That PD approval is for 12,000 square feet, all on 22nd Street, as well as 75 units, 75 townhomes. Those townhomes are about 2,000 square feet. We're proposing about 115 to 125 single-family condominiums integrated into mixed-use development. So if you look at the square footage allocated residential, it's about the same. 75 at 2,000 is 150,000 square feet. 115 to 125 units at 1,000 square feet is about the same allocation of residential. That plan in 2007 is not a plan that will work in 2018 or 2020. People cannot afford, in this community, 2,000 square foot units. The price points simply aren't there. So there's an affordable provision to this component, this development. There's also a requirement that we have a place of employment and also boutique, shops, a restaurant. No question a restaurant's going to be critical. We've identified an activity center at Elmwood and Bermuda that we think, since Elmwood runs from 22nd to Bermuda Boulevard, that's a key focal point. This is a beautiful site. This site has attributes that my clients identified years ago before they made the decision to pay millions of dollars for this site. Again, no contract contingency. They are not only invested, they are vested in this outcome. Staff discussed the coastal high hazard. We understand. Our concern about that is, how do you identify a targeted neighborhood that is in dire need of redevelopment, but yet you say don't make any increase or provide any increase in the unit count? So we have 75 units already approved at 2,000 square feet, and we're proposing 115, 120, 1,000 square foot. Same number of people, same number of square footage allocated to residential. So in a hurricane evacuation, the same number of people have to leave, no more, no less. And we've done our hurricane evacuation study. We have our level of service, our impact, our link node analysis. Our point is, if we're going to have communities identified that have been underserved and neglected over years, we have to allow an increase in intensity development. Commissioners, we would love to have a CMU 10 or a CMU 20. We'd love to have, I think, most ideally, an NMU 16. But we can't ask for any of those because they don't exist, or we can't ask for them. The reason we can't ask for the NMU 16 is the county has to designate this area as an urban mixed-use corridor, and it is not. So what has been approved is strip CMU 35 and Res 20 in the balance, and a strip Res 10 in the north. That is what that PD is going to do that's already been approved. Strip commercial on 22nd and apartments on the east side and rental units. We think this community needs to live, work, play, and be related through integrated vertical structures. We can easily sell off the east side for apartments and rental, and easily sell off the western side for commercial. That's not what my client's all about. My client's about developing communities. The other objection I saw from Mr. Hayes' report was the fact that there was no trans-identified corridor. Well, there was transit out here, ladies and gentlemen, but due to the ridership being so low, it had to be canceled. So think about that dichotomy that we find ourselves in. We have a report and a planning commission policy that says we cannot bless this higher density intensification because you really need to be on a transit emphasis corridor, and there's no transit emphasis out here. But it's been denied because there's not enough people, but when you ask for more residents, we have to deny you because it's not on a transit corridor. Something has to happen first, and I suggest we are the ones that are willing to sit down, and the communities behind us on this, to encourage transit to come back. Otherwise, redevelopment of the Palmetto Beach community is not going to happen anytime soon. So if you want those variables and you want those pieces of the puzzle to come together, somebody has to take the first step. You can't say we want higher transit service, but you can't get it because we can't give you more units. And you can't say we're denying you in the coastal high hazard area, even though you're doing the same square footage of allocated residential and the same number of residents in the same designated area. We don't want the CMU 35. We'd rather have a lesser category. I think the NMU 16 would be ideal, a lower FAR, a lower density. It allows vertical integration of mixed uses, but we can't ask for it. One of the questions posed to me at our meeting last Wednesday in the community was, why are you asking for such an intense district? And I said, it's the lowest intensive category that we can ask for. Our commercial will be under total, even including the 22nd Street, which is not part of the CPA, about 100,000 square feet. And here we are asking for a district that allows a 2.0 FAR with a performance density bonus that would give us 440,000 square feet, 332,000 square feet on just the 3.8 acres of the CPA area. So we're trying to balance those interests, those needs, and we think it's important that you recognize that, and I think it's important that the residents understand that. Half of our meeting on Wednesday was simply stating, we want to address all of your specific site plan concerns, but we can't do that until we pass first base. Once we get past first base, then we can sit down and go through all of our site planning. What types of uses, what districts, what setback, what FAR, what coverage, what height, tree planting, parallel parking, angle parking. We can't get there. We are stopped, we are handcuffed on any of those efforts to answer a very detailed letter that one of the opponents, Tom Reynolds, a citizen, sent us over the weekend and said, what are these answers? And I said, I can't even respond to those because I don't have the forum and I'm not in the proper venue. But they deserve those answers. They deserve to see a plan that works for them. And then we all go to city council and they say we don't like this plan or we ask for modifications. But I have to get to the first step. I have to get to first base, commissioners. We have worked too hard on this. I even asked David Hayes, should we bump this? And I asked for consideration of bumping this to September 10th and go back and regroup. And the decision was by the community, we want to continue on tonight because the leadership believes in this effort and we want to do the right thing and stay on track. We know between now and September 27th of City Council, we have our work to do. And we're cut out for that and we're ready to do it and we'll set up meetings and we're excited to handle that. One of the complaints that I saw on a petition online was that this was an effort to maybe subvert the public participation process, that we only sent letters to the 250-foot radius. That's your rule. That's not ours. And we reached out the community support group and the leadership months in advance. We want an all-inclusive effort on this. We know that without the community's buy-in, we might just fold up our bags and go home because these plans will go nowhere without the Palmetto Beach community supporting it. I'm going to have, is that time or is that zero? Or
That was time.
That was time. Well, how about that, Mr. Chairman? With that, we'll close. Appreciate your support. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horner. All right, I have a number of people signed up to speak on this agenda item. I'm going to go through them in order. I do have a couple of notes here where people were indicating something that they wanted to do, giving time to another person. That's not going to happen. If you want to speak, speak. If not, don't. I'm going to start with Laura Meyer, and I have a Mike Holmes and a Katie Falcon, if you can line up after that. Laura Meyer, come on up.
Hello. My name is Laura Meyer. I'm Vice President of the Palmetto Beach Neighborhood Association. I live at 2424 Stewart Street and have since 2013. I personally own property on Bermuda Boulevard, and my father owns 4 properties directly across the street from the area being reviewed: 1301, 1303, 1305, and 1307 Bermuda Boulevard. I'm representing my father's statements as well. My family has owned property in Palmetto for 20 years, and our thoughts regarding new development consider not only the property owners, but also the general input from our neighbors, board members, family, and friends living in the area. From any angle, I encourage and ask your approval of the comprehensive plan amendment. I have 3 generations of my family within blocks of the proposed development. We all share the vision of a new and improved interest in this area, and allowing commercial development in a centralized and confined area along the southern tip of Bermuda makes complete sense. Up until 2007, there were businesses on Bermuda Boulevard. We're not a primarily residential neighborhood. We're bordered by industrial water and 2 of the highest traffic count roads in the city. We've been assured that the developer will work alongside the neighborhood association to improve upon the lighting, parking, and overall upgrade to the area that it badly needs and deserves. The history of this area is unknown and overall being overlooked and underutilized. The previous plan made for this site are not taking advantage of this space, and it doesn't make sense long range for the city and the neighborhood. The zoning in place is outdated, and the land has been vacant for years. Where am I? To force a dated plan into this unique space would be short-sighted and paralyze the outlying potential for future development. We need to think of the future of the entire surrounding area and allow growth to come, invite other businesses a chance to become a part of the community. I feel this is the right time and the right location for this particular vision to bring new life to our space and our community. Please allow us the flexibility to grow as it does make sense. The demand has been there for a long time. It would be terrible to pass up a great opportunity. I was born and raised in Hyde Park in the 70s before the village was born. I've done this process before alongside my family, and I would love to be able to watch this area grow and flourish the same way Hyde Park has. It takes vision, money, community support, proper attention to collective concerns to allow for it to be done properly, and we have the chance now to give Palmetto Beach a diverse opportunity. Our families, friends, neighbors, businesses will all benefit from a new approach to the area. You personally have my full support to allow the development to move forward, and the Neighborhood Association has voted unanimously in support of the zoning project. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. Mr. Holmes? I have a Katie Falcon and an Alan Jewell next.
How's it going? I personally don't own any property.
I need your name and address.
Oh, sorry. Mike Holmes, 2007 Stewart Street. I'm representing the owner, Shane Krugman. He purchased the Palmetto Beach Athletic Association. It was a completely abandoned, vacant property, and I was leasing it out for him, but he decided to move his office from Seminole Heights there. We all have a strong belief in the Palmetto Beach area and the Ybor community, and that building was completely run down. While I was leasing it out, I had more people come there, tell me how they used to go there for spaghetti dinner nights on Sundays and play dominoes there. And there's just not a lot of office and new development in that area. There's a lot of jobs that are going around the port there. So I think this plan is solid, has a lot of green space, brings a lot of potential for people to live closer to the port. I also had Coco's Sandwich Shop for sale for a while, which I did not sell. Carlos decided to keep it, but I've seen the line of people in his shop. It's like 20 people deep going out to the front. So I know, well, I can't fully say if he still sports it, but we did talk about the land for a while, and he liked the townhouse idea and more stuff coming to that area. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Katie Falcon?
Hello, my name is Katie Falcon. I'm at 2418 Thrace Street. While I'm a relative newcomer to the neighborhood, I've been there about a year and a half. We have fallen in love with the neighborhood and the community in general. And it's a shame that we don't have the gathering places that history has told me used to be in Palmetto Beach. It used to be a live, work, play community, complete with cigar factories, homes that people would walk to their places of employment, streetcars that ran all the way from Palmetto Beach all the way across Tampa. None of that is there anymore. We're left with an absolutely beautiful park and a beautiful group of people and a sense of community that I'm happy to be a part of. And I believe that the development that is proposed would fit very nicely. It would give the community a place to gather. It would bring new owners into the neighborhood instead of the existing apartments that were approved in 2007. Ownership means that the people become not transient, but true members of the community invested in where they live. So my support is with the developer in changing the land use.
Thank you, Ms. Falcon. I have an Alan Jewell. Jennifer Willman's next.
Hi, my name's Alan Jewell. I live at 2413 Lindsay Street. Relatively new to the neighborhood. Really like the people. They're really friendly, outgoing. I think the historical development pattern in that area was like the pre-World War II pattern with the mixed use. And I think we've got from just what I know about the guys, a willing investor who's presented a plan attempting to mimic that that pattern and revitalize the area. Their plan will anchor the area and draw additional economic growth and stimulate businesses on 22nd Street, I think. The current zoning has done little to encourage the development on 22nd Street. You look up and down it, there's there's no structure, cohesiveness, and there's just a few thriving businesses is all. I think the investor was kind of handcuffed with the current comprehensive plan, and it's unfortunate Palmetto Beach wasn't designated an urban village or whatever it is under the current plan, because I think that's what they truly are trying to do. If they get this change, will they do what they said they're going to do? I think they will. Ultimately, it's up to them. I'm sure they've done their due diligence and evaluated the economics of their options. And I think this is probably what looks most beneficial to them, their principals, their investors and their lenders, and Palmetto Beach. Reputations matter. I think they've kind of got a good reputation from what I've seen of it. Aesthetics matter. And if it looks good, they're going to sell it. And it's going to encourage community participation there. Apparently, that's going to get recommended that it's inconsistent, I guess, is the term you guys use. And I think the planners are doing their best to warn the public of this worst case catastrophic scenario, whatever that is, what crazy building they can do, what commercial building they can do there. And I'm thankful that they're looking out and warning us citizens. However, I don't think that the investor is going to go the city planner's worst case scenario for our neighborhood. I think the contrary is appropriate. What CTV has planned and presented in the neighborhood is my best case scenario. My worst case scenario is just a bunch of apartments there with no community involvement there. We want to walk and bike down to our neighborhood meeting place, I guess, on Bermuda, to shop and meet our neighbors, maybe have dinner on the waterfront with our friends. I think this change will be good for the area, and it will help revitalize the whole thing. I'd like to ask you to approve their change request, and thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Willman.
Good evening, Jennifer Willman, and I have a letter I'd like to enter into the record, if I might. Who do I give those to?
Clerk. Need your address.
2426 Stewart Street, Tampa, and I have lived in Palmetto Beach since 2007. I serve as president of the Palmetto Beach Community Association. have a master's degree in community planning, and I've worked as a certified professional planner for 14 years. I've reviewed the staff report, and I just heard David Hayes' recommendation based on certain land use policies to find it inconsistent, and I'd like to go over those policies now. I was going to read the letter, but I don't have enough time, so I'm going to address these policies. So he stated land use policy 2.1.1, encourage compact, higher density development. Yes, that's what we want to do. So to find it inconsistent is confusing to me because we're going to address the compatibility issue with the surrounding character at rezoning. So I don't understand why that would be a policy that would be a finding of inconsistency. I would think that what we're proposing, what's being proposed tonight is consistent. Land use policy 9.2.1, protect, promote, maintain residential neighborhoods in order to preserve an adequate amount of residential land for existing and future population growth. Yes, CMU 35 would provide for residential. It would have to be built because there's no way that office and commercial uses could be supported in that location without adding residences. We're very, it's an isolated neighborhood. You're not going to have successful office and commercial without more residential. It's a good mix. That's what it's for, CMU 35. Policy 9.2.2, impacts of redevelopment projects on the existing physical and social framework and character of the affected area should be recognized and discussed during the development review process. Yes, it will be discussed at the development review process. It's really not an issue right now for the future land use that we're talking about. Land use policy 9.5.1, protect low-density single-family areas. I'm going to stop right there because Palmetto Beach is not a low-density single-family area. Our average density is 12 units per acre. We have a mix of uses. We're a historic neighborhood that grew up around 4 cigar factories. It was a self-sustaining village. And to call it a low-density single-family area is not a proper characteristic for our neighborhood. And so, to me, this policy does not apply, and it should not be used as a way to determine inconsistency. Policy 15.2.1, encourage the development of commercial uses in character and or scale with the general look and scale of the community and in context with its culture and history. That will be done with the rezoning. CMU 35 will require the rezoning to PD, and we'll address all those issues. I know there are residents here that are against commercial along Bermuda Boulevard. The R20 already allows commercial with the locational criteria addressed, which I've included in my letter, but I won't go into it right now. The concern is, with commercial along Bermuda Boulevard, there's access from 22nd Street to the site. The 22nd Street is a collector road. That access can be provided from there. It's a unique site, being a triangular shape in the south end of the neighborhood, away from the historic district. We think it's the perfect site to do some redevelopment, infill development, which is in your plan, which is something to promote and support. So the Board of Directors of the Palmetto Beach Community Association has unanimously recommended approval, and we hope you will too. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Willman. I have Marie Reynolds.
Okay, I'm Marie Reynolds. I'm 75 years old. I live at 2421 Stewart Street. I've lived in Palmetto Beach all my life. And this is hard. I'm not used to this. We've lived, I'm going to do a little story at halftime. When I was 4 years old, my dad was going to surprise my mom, and he bought her a house on Davis Island, built a home for her. We lived 3 months on Davis Island. 5 days out of 7, we were on Davis Island, and 2 days we were in Palmetto Beach. Because my mother said, I'm not selling my house on Lindsay Street. I don't know if I'm gonna like it there. 3 months later, we went back to Palmetto Beach and we stayed there. In 1952, my dad built a house right on the water on Bermuda Boulevard, 803 Bermuda. And families lived there ever since. My dad passed, my mom passed, my brother passed just 3 years ago, and now my son's living there. I have a daughter living next door to me. My 2 grandchildren live on the beach, want to live there forever. It's a family place. My family, the Charamontes, the Reynolds, the Mirandas, and the Laughlys all have roots there. We've had the crab shacks on the water. So I've been there through the whole history. You've got that many years, you've got some history. We really are a family community, and I'm upset to hear that the community is all behind this when I didn't even know about this till last Wednesday. I knew that the property was sold. I had no idea what they were thinking about doing with it. I'm in favor of getting more families in. We need them. We don't need a lot of businesses because we are close to everything. We're close to Channelside, Ybor City, Brandon. We're 15 minutes from everything. We need to keep Palmetto Beach a family community. I support having family condos on the water. I'm one of those that's opposed to businesses on the water. I don't want commercial. We have commercial on 22nd. Why would we need it in a residential area? I really would like to keep it as close to a community as we have now and limit the commercial part, especially on the waterfront. And I just think it's a shame when change is motivated by monetary reasons. It's a shame. Let's keep it as much as we can, Palmetto Beach. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reynolds. Vanessa Reynolds?
Hello, and thank you. My name is Vanessa Reynolds. I live at 2417 Stewart Street. That's my grandma. My great-grandparents, they bought their property in the 1950s, so I'm fifth-generation Palmetto resident. I was born and raised here. I went to school here, and I plan on staying here. It's all really beautiful, the waterfront. Through the years, the neighborhood has housed so many of my friends and family and people who have lived here or haven't lived here so long, don't really know the sentiment. But we don't want these commercial buildings. I don't think they're really considering the impact. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. Ybor and Channelside used to be family friendly, back a long time ago. They had booming local economies. Smaller business owners and their families made livings, but, 7th Avenue's famous for a reason. But, you can see the effects of that kind of like gentrification now. You see crumbling walls. It is in disarray. It's all nightlife, really. And that's not what we want for our community. It's families that live here. So I'm not saying that's what these buildings will be, but if you open up this to Bermuda Boulevard, both residential and commercial, our residents, they could possibly be bought out. The McKay Bay, it could be covered with traffic. What happens to the park? What happens to the DeSoto, elementary school? How are people going to go about their daily lives with all this high volume that you're going to have? It's just a little concerning, especially with how many people are probably going to park along the water. And that's, people live there. It's probably going to be in front of residential homes. It's just going to obstruct a lot of our daily lives, I feel. So, there is a compromise, just business on 22nd and residential on Bermuda. That's how it's been. That's my family's house is on Bermuda. And that's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Reynolds. I have a Terry Reynolds.
I had no idea what she was going to say. She did good. My name is Terry Reynolds. I live at 2417 Stewart Street. I'm fortunate to live next door to my parents. That's fortunate for now. 2421 Stewart Street, where they still reside, where I was born and raised. She's fifth generation, I'm fourth generation. I had not enough time to get petitions that I wanted, since we were only made aware of this on Wednesday. So I went to change.org, and I think now there's 67 or 68 people that have signed this. Can I get this?
Right, the clerk.
I don't have names, but I do have some comments of some of the people. First, I had something I was going to say, but this just kind of threw me for a loop. I know we have an association. I was one of the 4 founders of the association 20-some years ago, when there was 4 of us that just started it, and we created all kind of things: picnics, parties, daycares, thrift stores. It's kind of gone to the wayside a little bit, and I'm friends with the president and the vice president. I don't think we've had a meeting in a year. I think when they say they're unanimous, I don't know how many people are in that too, that I know for sure. And I have, like I said, over 60-some people against commercial on Bermuda. A lot of the properties that have been bought surrounding this has just been purchased within the past 15 months. Some of the owners further down, to me, just have a monetary interest. They have a vested interest in what happens. They bought some of the property in front, the waterfront, and everything surrounding that. So, of course, they want this to take place. I'm not against all of it. I would like for some commercial to be on 22nd Street. 22nd Street was very busy. It did have a lot of businesses and residents. My in-laws had an auto shop there one time. Then it switched to 20th Street. So we've already been pushing with really hard commercial to semi-commercial, and I just don't want it to become another Ybor City, and I don't want it to be commercial on the boulevard. I think it should be residential. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reynolds. I have a Tommy Reynolds.
I'll speak a little quicker so I can make sure I get it in. My name is Gene Thomas Reynolds. I'm at 803 South Bermuda Boulevard, which is the property that was referenced earlier. I am 4th generation in the family community and have lived there, had residence there my entire life. Bought my first home in my 20s next door to my parents from Sam Bajika Jr., who was also there his whole life. And I still own it, and I rent it to a good friend of mine who works in Ybor City. As my sister said, she lives right next door as well. Being a lifetime Palmetto Beach resident of nearly 5 decades and knowing every generation of my family that's lived there, I've seen the ebbs and flows of this kindred community. I walked to DeSoto Elementary. I played at DeSoto Park countless nights, participated in the pavilion events, rode my bicycle to the local bodegas, assisted those in need that when hurricanes hit or huge storm brought the floodwaters over the seawall, never nervous, never scared to do so. Always a family, environment. We believed and still do that we are a family community and we always want to look out for each other. During this time, I've seen maturing areas around Palmetto Beach, which happen when prosperity occurs. When this growth started about 10 to 12 years ago, many family homes and small businesses on 22nd diminished. This was a lot due to the I-4 corridor and then the changes onto 20th Street, as was mentioned earlier, from the main arteries of Ybor City, downtown Tampa, and Brandon. The infrastructure changes tore some families completely out of the neighborhood, specifically on Long Street, where families had lived for 50, 60, sometimes 70 years, and they had no choice but to leave and move out of the area. And as these people moved away or others passed on, some homes have been purchased by LLCs, investment groups over the past 10 years. Many of these purchases have come around the same time in large investments made from outside development agencies. Even recently, some have been done, so it kind of seems like there's insider knowledge well before it happens, so these groups buy up the properties, and the local families don't even know it's happening until it's too late. The overall feeling is these investors are holding on to property for future commercial growth instead of building better neighborhoods today, instead of taking the time to make it better now. As more and more of this happens, the family community seems to be moving towards a turn and burn model instead of a place where families can raise their kids and see them grow up in a small town atmosphere while having all the luxuries of the big city surroundings that the areas provide. In closing, I'd love to see Palmetto Beach revitalized again, thriving with local businesses and families. 22nd Street was home to my grandmother, Matilda Cheramonte's floral shop. My parents had their commercial construction company there. There were also small shops you could visit for breakfast while sitting out and watching the cars and people go by, or restaurants with pool tables to hang out with friends and catch up on the daily news. Palmetto Beach, in my primary concern, is to stay a close-knit family. Maintaining the heritage and beauty of Palmetto Beach and specifically Bermuda Boulevard should be the primary focus when deciding of the future of this amazing neighborhood and the generations of families that have and will continue to call it their home.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Brian McCarthy.
Good evening. Brian McCarthy, 2208 Saxon Street. I live directly across from the vacant parcel. I've owned and lived at my house since 2007. After meeting with the planners and developers, I think last week, I kind of like their vision. I think that this is, again, just the first step into what they're trying to do. I will be back for the rezoning portion of it as well. So I'm in support of what they're trying to do, and I hope you are too. So thanks.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. I have a Janarian.
Hey, good evening. Well, it's past my bedtime, so good night.
Mine too.
Hey, everybody from the neighborhood. My name is Janarian, and this is my papa. His name is Alberto. We live on 7705 South Bermuda Boulevard. He has been there since 2007, 2008, around that time. It's been a while. God, he's old. We are in favor of this. I do like the idea of bringing in new families, some businesses. It's great opportunities. I do love the growth and development. And I think it's something that our community really needs. And that's basically it. I mean, we do have a lot of issues, and I think that's something that our community can come together and work out. But I think that's something further down the line than rather just, comprehensive, I guess, idea. So, yeah, that is it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I have a Frederick Coulant. No? A Christy Holt.
Good evening. My name is Christy Holt. I live and own at 315 South Bermuda Boulevard. I am north of the proposed project, and I am in favor of it. One moment. Sorry. So the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan says something very poignant in this issue. Preserving neighborhood character does not mean that things must be kept exactly the same. And I appreciate the sentiment and the lens, perhaps, that some of the families in our neighborhood look at our neighborhood. It does have somewhat of a family feeling, but it also has homes that are falling apart. It has homes that are rented out. It is not the safest neighborhood, and I would like to see it change. I am a single mother with 4 children. So some of my neighbors feel that keeping a sleepy family or a sleepy feeling to our neighborhood, we must keep commercial off of Bermuda Boulevard. I agree that large commercial interests would affect the feeling of the area. I believe smaller commercial interests, like what is being proposed, would be helpful and benefit our urban village. Creating small jobs, a place to grab a quick bite to eat, and an interest in an area that is in decline. I am a real estate agent, and I've shown homes in my neighborhood. It is one of the few areas that is still affordable. We do, in general, have homes under $200,000 within our neighborhood, and in Tampa, that's unheard of. That being said, they're under $200,000 and they're falling apart. So it's very hard to get someone to come in and invest in our neighborhood. I see turning commercial to face the wide, uninteresting street of 22nd alone as a misstep for our neighborhood. Channelside is a prime example of real estate that failed by not giving waterfront views to the public. I believe Mr. Vinnick is fixing this with Sparkman Wharf. I don't believe that we need it to be restaurants and bars all along that area, but having sandwich shops or a couple offices and one restaurant would be a benefit to the area, not a deterrent. I can attest that a common desire of home buyers in urban areas is for it to be walkable and bikeable, a lifestyle that's mentioned in the description that's mentioned in the planning proposal. Says that they fit Hillsborough planning guides described as pre-World War II pattern before 1945 is a time when many people walked, bicycled, or took streetcar to work or other designations. This pattern can be in historic neighborhoods around downtown Tampa: Hyde Park, Ybor City, Tampa Heights, Seminole Heights, Palmetto Beach, East Tampa, Sulphur Springs, and Palmacia. The neighborhoods mentioned in this are all beautiful areas that show an array of architectural style. Hyde Park, Palmacia have seen preservation through investment like Hyde Park Village. Seminole Heights and Tampa Heights are in the midst of revitalization, and I would love to see that happen in our neighborhood to be a blessing to Tampa as well.
Thank you, Ms. Holt. I don't have anybody else signed up, but is there anybody else in the audience who wishes to address the commission? Please step forward. And
Karen Mahalski, 7903 West Whitewater Court. I'm in concern for this because it's a coastal high hazard. I think when people are going to be purchasing in this, and I imagine that the current homeowners in this area are going to be preparing themselves, I think it's an assumption that when people purchase that they are going to have a certain safety. And what is this safety going to be if you're allowing development on a coastal high hazard? It already is for the people who own it. You can't do anything about it, but this you certainly can. Also, as you notice, the residents have all been stating commercial. You know, this allowance allows for that commercial. Yes, it could be all residential, as the one family has requested, and maybe some people wouldn't mind, but it allows for it. And once you open this up, it sets precedence. Precedence is what we all know, is everyone always cites it. Hey, over here, all today it's been stated, look over here, we've had, this is consistent, this is consistent. And so this precedent of going commercial is, in case somebody does want to sell, you're just going to be extending that commercial, and you're going to lose that community that is there. The other is I would like to commend is that we did have protect the residential, which was missed previously in the one community, I believe it was the Lincolns and the Carver City. So it's kind of interesting that sometimes this is used as an inconsistent and then sometimes it's not. I wish that the Planning Commission would use it always and protect every neighborhood as opposed to just certain ones. Thank you.
thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Cindy Rowe. I bought several houses over in the Palmetto Beach area. I owned a business on 7th Avenue and 31st, and also lived in Ybor. I've lived in Temple Terrace, and I've lived in Brandon. And I guess I'm considered a first family because my mother's family has the first homestead in Orlando, Aaron Jernigan. And yes, you know, everything that we've got a lot of people coming in and saying a lot of different things that pertains to Palmetto Beach, just as it pertains to Davis Island and everything, because we are coastal. And the hospital, need I say more? And why have they continued to build upon it for 30 years running? And look at New Orleans, where I also have family at the charity hospital that went under. Okay, so that being said, people are going to continue to come and live as close to the water as humanly possible until there's a uniform standard that says no more building anywhere, because especially, well, in certain areas, you're going to have always people want to live on the water. It's just the fact of life. And Palmetto Beach has been, Stewart was a main artery. The people that know that the trolley used to go from Stewart down to the park. And it was just obliterated by a couple of different things that happened with the cross town and this and that, Adamo. And unfortunately, I thought a lot of things that were going to happen to the Ybor area, Channel Side, the things that were approved, Ybor, Channel Side, a lot of money come in, a lot of people made money by buying those developments that didn't do well. And so Palmetto Beach has been really pretty much left on its own. And I really do commend the people that are trying to do something here. It's better than nothing. And we have had a lot of absolutely nothing in that area that's been a positive, other than some really great people that have lived here for a long time, and they have seen a lot of things come and go. But there has been, unless and until something concrete comes in here, the corridors are just going to be continually mixed and matched, and most people are not going to continue to want to come down to Palmetto Beach. But it is a hidden little gem. I purchased several homes down there because I believe in it. So,
Thank you. We're to oh, ma'am, yes.
My name is Patricia Reynolds Stone, and unfortunately I'm no relative to them, and I have not been there all of my life. I'm a relatively new owner at 2418 Thrace. I've listened to everybody, what they've said here. I sat here through all of your previous things, and I'm a little distressed that I continually hear good reasons for you to approve something. And unfortunately, Ms. Kress is the only one who has voted against all of you. It sounds to me like you possibly want no improvement. You possibly want no change. And I don't think that that's in your best interest. I think what's being proposed here is a vitally important part of a very important area. These folks have lived here all of their lives. They've got a lot to be grateful for. But as others have pointed out, there are areas here that are very run down and need to be improved. You cannot improve anything if you can't improve and approve change. This is, as they've stated, they don't want to do this CMU 35. They would like to do something else. And if I think that what they're going the next step, if you approve this today, what they would be willing to do is to contain most of the commercial on 22nd. What they're proposing is beautification of an area that is very run down. I would like to see a restaurant on the waterfront. I don't want to see a lot of bars. I don't want to see an Ybor City. What I want to see is some place that we can go, that we can enjoy, that we can walk to, that it'll be safe. It's a good, safe area, but I didn't think so when I first went there. It doesn't have a very good appearance. And I think this would definitely be a step in the right direction, and I would like you to consider approving this proposal.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Mr. Horner. Rebuttal or response?
Thank you. Mr. Chair, Michael Horner for the record. And I'll be very brief, just 30 seconds. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Kiefer Norris, who will close. Commissioners, I think what we have tonight is passion from a community that wants change, that supports change. They just want to see how we get there. How we get there is through allowing us to get to the next step. What I heard this evening was we support a lot of these elements, but we have a certain concern about one particular element. We can address all of these issues in a binding site plan filing. And if that does not suit their needs, they can go to City Council and say we recommend denial. It's not what we wanted, and we accept that. We're just asking for a chance to put together a plan that has a minuscule representation of that CMU 35, but enough that we need to make this a true live, work, play community. Thank you for your time. Mr. Norris is going to close. Thank you.
Kiefer Norris, he left me very little time here. So I just wanted to throw a slide up. And Palmetto Beach has 2,049 people that live in it and 745 households. And I think a vast majority of those households would welcome the ability to shop, the ability to see a veterinary, the ability to see a dentist, the ability to have office. When we say office, that doesn't necessarily mean large office. It means services, resources in your neighborhood. The fact of matter is that if you look at where we're discussing the project, it is the perfect entry to do just that for this community. There's already commercial all along 22nd Street, and then that corridor at the bottom there, it melds so well to be a complement to the neighborhood. We've had numerous discussions, and we plan on having a lot more discussions with the neighbors on how we develop something that complements Palmetto Beach. Palmetto Beach, when I always ask, where's the beach? Well, the beach was taken away many, many years ago for development in other areas. And then I said, well, what happened then? Well, then they shifted the commercial to 20th Street. Where's the planning that is gone, that should be here to service these 2,000 residents, to say, we need to give you resources, we need to give you stores. Someone mentioned Coco's earlier. I ate there. He's in full support. He provided the sandwiches, and that's where we met on a Wednesday. I believe that those type of restaurants and those type of resources are what we need. And I hope you really take in consideration the numerous people that have gotten up and spoken and spent many hours here voicing their concern and how they want to see this development. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments from commissioners? Commissioner Thrower.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I thought, first of all, I thought Jennifer Willman did an excellent job voicing her, the policies that were made this consistent, consistent. I'm leaning towards voting consistent. I'd like to hear what the other commissioners said. I'm leaning towards voting it, and I'll rehash what Jennifer stated. Policy 2.11, I think this proposal goes along with encouraging compact, higher density development that is compatible with the surrounding character. I think policy 9.21, protect, promote, and maintain residential neighborhoods in order to preserve an adequate amount of residential land for existing and future population growth. And 9.22, the impacts of redevelopment projects on the existing physical and social framework and character of the affected areas should be recognized and discussed during the development review process. There are other ones that deal with mixed-use centers and stuff that I think go along with that too. So I'm actually, this is a tough one. I'm kind of leaning towards voting consistent, and I'd like to hear what the other commissioners have to say about this. I do think this is a lot different than what we voted on earlier in terms of some of the other ones, in terms of, because I think in those situations, it was a significant different vote. It was voting for an area that was truly residential to something that was more, I think this is a lot different. And I want to say, Jennifer, a lot of people come up and do public comment. I think you did your organization a true service in terms of the way you presented that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thrower. Commissioner Kress.
Commissioner Thrower, I was just going to suggest if you wanted to make that a motion, I would second it for consistency.
I would I think if we can let others speak.
Yep. Commissioner Joseph.
Yeah, I will kind of disagree with you two. I think this is allowing a bit too much in. I mean, I understand the need for development. I understand the need for how great mixed-use development would be right here. But, I mean, if things go sideways, God forbid, things never go sideways in development. But if things go sideways, this opens a Pandora's box in your community that I think a lot of people aren't considering. And I think that might be where the city's stance is coming from. And I'd like to hear from LaShawn, because she didn't really, David gave his presentation, but she didn't really say much. I'd like to understand the city's thoughts on why they thought it was inconsistent a bit more. I read your comments, but I just wanted to hear.
Yes, good evening, Commission. LaShawn Dock, City of Tampa Planning and Development. What we did was we looked at what was currently approved on the site and felt that the requested land use category would provide for more intense use over that entire area. I wasn't sure of the applicant's intent behind the request for it, but we just look at the request, as you know, on its face, what is allowed as far as the density. We have no way of allowing any commitment to anything lower than what would be allowed under an approved land use category. So we always look at the maximum development potential. It could change, plans change, ownership changes.
Right. Can I ask you, is there any other, the applicant spoke about there not being another mechanism for them to find a more restrained sort of mixed-use category for them to land in? Has the city considered that in any way, or?
We have not. With the land use categories which exist, sometimes it does put applicants in a place where they're going to the next land use category, even though their intent is not to develop within that land use category. The only thing is if they are at the level of city council and they submit a PD rezoning at that time. It doesn't mean that in the future, someone else can't come back and rezone on top of that PD, but that's one way of capping it at that time.
All right, thank you.
Any other commissioners? I actually will like to comment on top of what LaShawn was indicating there and speak both a little bit to Commissioner Thrower and Commissioner Joseph's comments. My concern definitely is the fact that the possibility exists going to CMU 35 that a substantially more dense development is allowed. Doesn't mean that's what they're going to do, but as Mr. Horner has pointed out, what they want to do is not what we can consider. As LaShawn said, we have to consider what the maximum potential is. I had actually, an aside with our executive director, I was asking whether or not there was some blending that was allowed of the existing land uses that were on the property to get them to what they were looking for, and was told that no, that wasn't allowed either. So it's another one of those conundrums. So there appears to me to be, well, we can approve it consistent, we can approve it as inconsistent, and we can add some kind of a statement. We can't tie it to any plan, but as LaShawn said, City Council can. So with that in mind, I guess maybe I'll reserve it to see how whatever voting goes from a motion, but I would suggest, should it be inconsistent, that we consider amending it with some sort of a statement saying that we like the idea, but we can't quite go as far as a CMU 35. So, if there's no further.
Wanted to add a comment about
Yes,
that.
Commissioner Buzzer.
I think, we get caught in this a lot about what the property's going to end up being, and we're not involved in the PD process, and by golly, it would be great to be involved with the PD process. And so there'll be setbacks, and there's going to be, sound barriers and that sort of thing, and we get stuck with that we're not. We're long-range featured land use, and when I look at the future land use that's already approved, I see the CMU 35 all down 22nd Street, and this is a perfect triangle to lead into the neighborhood. So I'm leaning toward the same way as Commissioner Crest and Commissioner Thrower.
Any other comments from commissioners? I'll close public comment and I will entertain the motion.
Okay. I would move that we find Tampa Comprehensive Plan Amendment 18-08 consistent with the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan.
I have a motion by Commissioner Thrower and a second by Commissioner Kresk. Yes. Oh, you need.
Commissioner Thrower, it would be useful if you would cite the policies that are the justification for that.
Yep, and I will, let me.
Good catch. I should have said something.
Okay. Sure. Okay, and I'm going to cite policy 9.21, policy 9.22, policy 2.11, and policy 15.21.
Sufficient? Second. Okay. Motion by Commissioner Thrower, amended, seconded by Commissioner Kress as amended. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Aye. Motion passes. Commissioner Joseph against. All right. That brings us to item number 5, TACPA 1809 1809A.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jennifer Malone with your Planning Commission staff. The next two items on your agenda, 1809A and B, are interrelated. So if it is the pleasure of the board, I'd like to just present those one after another, and then you can vote at the end after you've heard both presentations. Thank you. This is in the Central Tampa Planning District within the Tampa Heights Urban Village. It is a privately initiated small-scale amendment at about 0.22 acres from Community Mixed Use 35 to Community Commercial 35. It's here, it's outlined in the yellow. It's along Columbus Avenue. We have Florida Avenue. It runs north out of downtown, and then Tampa Street, which runs south towards downtown from those neighborhoods. To the south of the subject site, this is a Dollar General. We also have a Chinese restaurant on the corner here and the interstate in this area. This is the subject site outlined in red because the building is so close to the other building. I just outlined it there. It's this building, and this is along Columbus Drive. This is a surrounding area. I'm facing east. This building is at the corner of Columbus Drive and North Florida Avenue. And this is that dollar store that interfaces the subject site. This has the same future land use that the applicant is requesting today. This is that Community Commercial 35 already. It's just right across the street. And then here's that Ming Garden. This is facing west. This is at the corner of Columbus and Tampa Street. So Tampa Street's over here, and this is the commercial establishment. This is the adopted future land use map. The subject site is currently that Community Mixed Use 35. It's the pink color. The red is Community Commercial 35. It's located to the south and also present along North Florida Avenue. We also have Residential 20 to the north. The orange is Residential 10, and then this darker brown is Residential 35. And this is the proposed future land use map if 1809A is approved through this amendment. The impacts, the difference between the two future land use categories is that the Community Commercial 35 allows for commercial intensive zoning. The density and intensity is the same. That's why your existing and potential look the same on your screen. It's still 35 dwelling units to an acre and up to a 2.0 FAR. They just allow different uses. So the the Community Commercial 35 future land use category will allow that commercial intensive zoning on the subject site that is not currently allowed. The City of Tampa did have objections to this request, which are included in your packet and which LaShawn will speak on when I'm complete. We did find this consistent with the following comprehensive plan policies. We looked at the surrounding development pattern. It does interface the same future land use that they're requesting tonight. It interfaces directly to the south across the street. It's located along an arterial roadway and between two arterial roadways, as well as within an urban village. From the comprehensive plan perspective, this is exactly where the growth should be directed. We have specific policies stating that we should direct our growth to the urban villages. As I stated beforehand, this plan amendment is not changing the density and intensity. It's allowing those commercial intensive uses on the subject site. We did find this request consistent with the established development pattern and the policies of the comprehensive plan. And that concludes my presentation for the first amendment. And I'm going to continue into 1809B. My presentation is going to be very similar because it's a subject site directly to the east. It's a publicly initiated plan amendment, though, at approximately 0.21 acres from Community Mixed Use 35 to Community Commercial 35. And it's this right here. Where my cursor is, this was 1809A, which I previously presented on, and this was for 1809B, which is just directly to the east. This is the subject site where my cursor is on this green building. That's 1809B. This is the adopted future land use map. The subject site's outlined in the black hash. This is Community Mixed Use 35. And the request is to go to Community Commercial 35, which is that red. And previously, I presented on 1809A, which is where my cursor is right here. Once again, the existing and potential is the same because this just allows those commercial intensive uses. The City of Tampa staff also had objections to this request. And staff's argument was the same for both of these amendments. We did find that it was compatible with the surrounding character. And again, we just looked at those policies about the same form and the same development pattern, as well as directing that growth to the urban villages. And we found this consistent as well. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm available, and LaShawn is here to speak on the city's position.
Good evening again, Commissioners. LaShawn Dock, City of Tampa Planning and Development. City Planning staff reviewed the request and has objections to the request. Staff has concerns regarding the development potential allowed under the CC 35. In consideration of the site and the existing residential that exists to the north of the site. On the, if I can have the Elmo. On the map, on Florida Avenue, wow, that's coming up. On Florida Avenue, the development pattern is a little different. It is mostly commercial along Florida Avenue. This is Columbus Drive, the Orient. This is Tampa Street to the west. So on the map, Tampa Street is located to the west, and then the property in question is outlined in pink on the site. Thank you. So the development south of it, the land use category 1 block south of this request is the CC 35. But as you're aware, that development that is located to the south, that block is commercial. So there's a different development pattern on the southern end of Columbus than there is on the northern end. That entire block to the south is completely commercial. That, as you know, historically was the grocery store on the corner of Florida. That's a bike store. That bike shop has been there forever. So that entire block entails commercial uses. The block, within that same block face under this request, the northern end of that block is residential. Although there are vacant parcels, the R20 land use category exists, but there is residential that is developed on that block. On the north side of that block of the street, to the north of the site, it is residential. Those vacant parcels are filling in and it is developed with residential. So the concern is extending that CC 35. The CMU 35 creates an appropriate transition to that residential. And what should be considered is if the CC 35 is approved, is it appropriate with that residential directly north of it, within that same block face? Also, we looked at, in the future, if it is felt that that CC 35 is appropriate along that entire block face, running to Tampa. Because typically, if there's a publicly initiated amendment, it may entail the entire block face, you complete the block. Is it appropriate there? Is it appropriate all the way on that block going to Tampa? We just felt it would be too intense, the development allowed there. And that completes staff's presentation. I've included the land use policies within the staff comments.
Thank you, Ms. Dock. Ms. Rodriguez, I think it's your turn. After all that.
It's not my property. It's his property. He's the one doing the damage.
Okay, well, so it's the applicant's turn then, and then you can do public comment then. Yes, it's the applicant's turn.
Good evening, Commissioner. Okay, my name is Moises Moreta. I live in 2507 Westlake Avenue, and I bought the property 25 years ago. I'm close with the community all the time. My first 15 years at the property, I have a TV shop, and after that, 14 years ago, we got a car dealer, my wife and me. my wife. The property is used for maintenance our cars. Our business is in Columbus and Florida. So we are the community for maybe 25 or 27 years. So I try working hard for keeping our family so they sustain, okay? So I don't go to the change that we want to use the property. Right now is CG. We want to change to CI because if in the future we try change like a major component of this car in all cars, will be out of the laws because it's supposable. The license we got it there right now at the property is for minor auto repair. In this case, one time if you want to change, make it like a replacement, bigger component on this car, probably I'll be out of the problem. So right now, the business don't have no signs. They don't have nothing. We want to keep it like that because it's together with the other business we got in Columbus and Florida. So we don't plan to put it there like a sign or working for the public, just working for all cars. So this is the reason you want to make it a change from CG to CI. And if you got to do something, put the building in better condition outside, you can do it because right now it's not open for the public, and they don't go be open for the public. It's just for our business. You already have it 14 years ago, the car dealer, and you working there for 14 years, and nobody knows what is there because it's just for all cars. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, my English don't have a real good looking, but I'm trying to explain. Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Olga Rodriguez, and my address is 206 East Columbus Drive. We bought all those two properties, the one on East from Florida and Columbus, and we also own the property that we want to change the use. Like my husband said, we've been having this property for many, many years, but for the past 14 years, we've been using it just for the service of the cars of our car lot, which is down the street. And that's the way we want to keep doing it. In these 14 years, we haven't had any violations, and that's the way we want to keep doing it. We want to continue, but we want to have a better change the use. We want to be able to do more work for our cars. To summarize, I just want to say that Columbus Drive has a very diverse uses. I mean, we have residentials that are not of our property, but we're separate by the alley. Those are not facing our property. And as far as I know, you're not supposed to be driving through those alleys. The front of those property are on Euclid Street. I also want to say that we built a fence without anybody telling us, the city or the county, and we are willing to make more changes if the city asks us to do it. I know about the plans that the city has in all this historic site, and we're willing to do some landscaping and to make the property more attractive to make our property beautiful. Our business also serve local people, and it helps my business, which is right next door. I also want to mention that our property is not large enough to develop an apartment building with requirement parking lot. Neither a restaurant, which we already have a restaurant right next door on the other side. As a history, my husband had his TV shop for the first 15 years. He had a TV shop, but after that, we started using the property to service the cars of the car lot. And after that, just want to say that I hope you guys approve this change, because all we want to do is maintain our family and keep business open, and hopefully give employ jobs to other people, like we've been doing it without getting in any trouble.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Mr. Fernandez.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Rick Fernandez, 2906 North Elmore Avenue, Tampa 33602. That's in Tampa Heights. I'm the president of the Tampa Heights Civic Association. And I've been here since 4:30 this afternoon, basically to say that I agree with the city. We are here in opposition to this amendment request, not because we have a bone to pick with the applicants, anything but. They have been good citizens, good members of the community for years doing business. The concern we have is with the requested change and the commercial intensity that might come with it. This area that we're talking about is dead center in the heart of Tampa Heights. The intersection of Columbus and Florida is a transit corridor, prospectively. It certainly is a transportation corridor now, and it is not unreasonable at all to expect that in the foreseeable future, hopefully within my lifetime, that we will have bus rapid transit or light rail or any number of things other than cars running up and down Florida Avenue and up Florida Avenue and down Tampa Street, and that the intersection of Columbus and Florida will be a significant transit hub. Whether it be one of the $10 million transit stations that is being suggested by Jacobs or something less expensive, it will be not only a hub but a destination. And our concern as stewards of the urban village that we live in is to ensure that the transit-oriented development that might occur within a quarter-mile walkshed of that intersection is consistent with what we want to do to create a destination. It's easy to consider this in the context, for instance, of Florida Avenue and Palm, where someone could get off of a bus or a trolley and be able to walk down to the Yellow Brick Road or walk down to Eulalie. It's harder to envision that now for Columbus and Florida, but that's coming. And 10 years ago, you wouldn't have been able to envision Eulalie either. So our point is simply this. These folks have been doing business without causing any trouble for years. Our worry is not about them. Our worry is about who buys the property next and what zoning is in place for them and what they're going to do with the property. So, again, as stewards of the urban village, we ask that we maintain the status quo. I hope that we'll have an opportunity as a community to speak with these good folks before City Council, and maybe we can come up with some workaround. But help us protect our urban core, and please say no to this amendment request. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the commission on this issue?
Karen Mahalski, 7903 West Whitewater Court, Tampa, Florida. I would like to comment on this issue. Seems very similar to the previous one where it was a auto repair and it wasn't consistent. And City of Tampa is doing their job and realizing we're following a plan. We need to have neighborhoods and precedents. What you decide here can be used by somebody else. And what the previous gentleman just said, precedents. You're now going to allow commercial high intensity. And there's neighbors right behind it. What does those neighbors have? Again, they're not against these people are following the rules, but it's precedents and what is going to be allowed with this designation. You're not going to be able to stop the continuation of that, and you're going to lose that neighborhood going north. And that's what everyone is concerned. Precedents and allowable use. And the City of Tampa is doing their job by stating these are our concerns with this, and that it is against the comprehensive plan. It is against what that allowable use is, does not provide that you're supposed to be degrading, supposed to have high-intensity commercial, which is across the street. Then you're supposed to have a ramp down to residential. And residential is right behind this property. Now, if this property wasn't residential behind, then there wouldn't be the argument. But there's residential, and those people have a right to have not high intensity in the future and to maintain a nice ramp. If it was in another location, it wouldn't be possible, because that residents, if they were here to be fighting, it would have a bigger impact. But unfortunately, they're not. So I am. So I vote no. I object to this based on that residential and the ramping. Thank you.
Thank you. You wished 3 minutes for rebuttal. Thank you.
Okay, sir. I know you know what happened right now in all this area, this neighborhood. Before, 24 years ago, 25 years ago, anybody, the association is right now appealing the decision, the thing you want to do there. I don't know what they was at this time. I don't worry like the gentleman say. But let me tell you something. I don't know from where appear a lot of hungry dog around this neighborhood, because they know the development happened in the downtown, and everybody coming now and everybody want to live it there. Everybody wanted fire for the place there. I don't try making any alteration at the neighborhood. I want to keep the building like it is right now. I don't try to do nothing else like what happened right now. So I don't even have a sign. And I kind of put a lot of place, any kind of business in this property. And for sure, a lot of business what can apply for be more inconsistent than the thing I want to do, because I say I don't even have a sign there. I don't know how can I alter the neighborhood. And the residential parts behind my property, that was empty. Right now it's empty. It's empty, lot of empty lot. So for a lot of company, like they defend, like a lawyer coming now and try via the association, they try fight for that. The neighborhood have, you don't know how many empty lots they have, a lot of abandoned house, but they try get that thing now because they have the value they have it. The neighborhood have it. I appeal to you members to try to get for my family the thing I want to do. Just I don't have no lawyer. I don't have nobody to defend me. Like they coming for the association, but I say thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Joseph.
I just wanted to say I think staff's report was pretty good, and I tend to agree with our staff's position over the city's. Just looking at the layout of the properties in the area, it seems that single family is already adjacent to the category that they're requesting, and seems okay to me.
Thank you, Commissioner Joseph. Any other comments? I'll close public comment and entertain a motion.
I will make a motion that we find TACPA 1809A consistent with the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan and forward this recommendation to the Tampa City Council.
We're going to do them both?
Both?
No, let's do them separately.
Do them separately,
Let's
yeah.
cite,
Okay.
if you would cite the.
No, that's following
consistent.
staff.
That is following
staff's
staff,
recommendation. All right. Have a motion by Commissioner Joseph. Second by Commissioner Marino. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously by members present. I'll entertain a motion for B, 9B. Do it again.
Make a motion that we find TACPA 1809B consistent and that we forward it to the Tampa City Council.
Motion by Commissioner Joseph, second by Commissioner Marino. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously by members present. Okay, great. We are almost through. You're ruining my record here, people, not. No, not you, no.
Bless his heart. I don't think he was here for all the first fun.
Jennifer Mullen with your Planning Commission staff. I have Future Land Use Map Amendment 1810. Feel free to let me know if I'm going too fast. It's the end of the night.
I will not.
This is in the Central Tampa Planning District within West Tampa. It's also being referred to now as North Hyde Park. It's that area north of Kennedy that we're seeing a real explosion of growth, even just in the short time I've been here. We have multifamily to the south. I have Rome Avenue. This is Carmen. It's these. It's really 3 parcels, and they're outlined in the pink colors. And this will be a little bit more clear when I go to the future land use map. But the request is to go from the residential 10 and general mixed use 24 to the community mixed use 35. These are some of the subject site pictures. This is looking east from North Fremont Avenue. This is some of the examples of the growth we're seeing and the development pattern over here on the side. This is also looking east from North Fremont. This is looking west from West Carmen Street. This is the subject site. It's a real industrial, almost remnant that we're seeing transition in this area. And then looking south from West Carmen Street. So here's the adopted future land use map. This is residential 10 is the orange. The light blue is general mixed use 24. And we also have the general mixed use 24 over here. And the request is to go to that community mixed use 35. We see that pattern to the south, over here to the east. Please note that there is a piece remaining. The applicant will probably further explain, but that piece is not being changed. This will increase the development potential from about 10 units to 21 units, and it'll greatly increase the FAR and the square footage allowed. It'll increase the residential density and commercial intensity on the site, as well as facilitate redevelopment of parcels on this block. This was consistent with several comprehensive plan future land use policies. We seek to encourage compact, higher density development that is compatible with its surrounding area, especially in these areas of the city that are close to transit and employment opportunities. This is pretty close to downtown. This is utilizing the limited land resources more efficiently. And it's also supporting the urban village, which always seeks to have that compact mixed use nature. And we found it consistent. The city of Tampa found it consistent as well, so I don't believe that they have a presentation tonight, but she's available for any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Dave, this is you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is David Mechanic, 305 South Boulevard, Tampa, Florida. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. Given the hour, I will be extremely brief. Jennifer did a very thorough report. I don't need to repeat that. The one point she mentioned that she thought I might want to explain to you is that my client, the majority of this block is already designated CMU, and what we have done are there are these small pieces that we're just trying to bring in conformity with that. We were unable to secure one single family lot, unfortunately, so that becomes an out parcel in this block, and we couldn't control it. We initially applied for it, and then the owner withdrew their consent to the plan amendment application, so we were not able to include that. But we have designed, and we do have a companion plan development rezoning for this block minus the single family lot, and that will be heard concurrently with this plan amendment before City Council on September 13th. And with that, I just would respectfully request your approval. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is there anyone in the public who wishes to address the commission on this agenda item?
Karen Mahosky, 7903 West Whitewater Card. I support this.
Right.
Because it's nice and consistent with the neighborhood. If you look at the map, everything is nice and consistent. It's not putting anybody in an industrial, and it's nice and consistent. So I support this density increase and this change.
All right.
Thank you. Any rebuttal, Dave? No? Okay. Any questions from commissioners? Public comment is closed. I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we find TEA CPA 18-10 consistent with the Tampa 2040 Imagine Plan and forward to the City Commission.
Motion by Commissioner Buzza, second by Commissioner Joseph. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries unanimously by members present, and we are adjourned.